entering the unscientific. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 Soo-yoon's Speculation. Strange in the claustrophobic space, looking at the 3 out of 100 knowledge points in front of him, Soo-yoon touched his chin in confusion. Where did these 3 knowledge points come from, you know? In the past 10 years, Soo-yoon started to study for a degree in the junior class, and now he is studying for a doctorate in biology and a master's degree in condensed matter. Only then did he gather 300 knowledge points and opened 3 doors not long ago. According to the time calculation, an average of 12 days will generate a knowledge point. Admittedly, the quality of the content learned in each stage during these 10 years is not the same, and it may be generated faster and slower sometimes. But in any case, it is not the case that 3 knowledge points suddenly appear in front of him. Then Soo-yoon checked the space again, and after confirming that there were no other abnormalities, he returned to reality. He came to the desk, picked up a pen and paper, and wrote down a few groups of words: organization of topics, cyclization, knowledge expansion, Newton's portrait. These 3 groups of words are a summary of what he has done since returning from the 1665 copy. Organizing the project is considered to be an improvement in his own scientific research status. Cyclization is a new knowledge or new idea obtained from the reward formula, and the portrait of Newton is a change that just happened. Then Soo-yoon drew a horizontal line under the last 2 groups of words. From the perspective of probability and reason, the possibility of the latter 2 is greater. Then he thought about it, touched his chin and analyzed. If nothing unexpected happens, the laboratory will be able to formally try to synthesize compounds the day after tomorrow. If it is the former, then once the technical barriers are broken, the knowledge points should also be increased accordingly. As for the latter, Soo-yoon scratched his head, took out his mobile phone again, and clicked on Penguin. It's strange to say that in 11-12, everyone liked to play Penguin Space. Now most of those people have turned to moments, and one-on-one chats are mostly based on WeChat, but only in group chats. Everyone still likes to use Penguin Group. For example, Soo-yoon, except for a loving family on WeChat, almost all other group chats are on Penguin. At this time, Soo-yoon opened a Penguin group called Hairline Protection Association, which was established by several graduates from HKUST. This is a small group that Soo-yoon often hangs out in, with more than 70 members in total. There are a lot of potential bigwigs in it, such as the King Chang Award winner, the 28-year-old senior doctoral supervisor, etc., and their resumes are like the protagonists of online novels. In addition to their skills, they are also relatively positive in terms of thinking. Everyone often meets offline to have a meal or something. When Soo-yoon opened the group chat, the group was chatting enthusiastically. Wish you climb 9 points, at Zio Hong. This is hard to say, foreigners have forged more than once. They even said that a dustpan was tens of thousands of years old. What's the big deal about making a portrait? Zio Hong, covering face. I'm not saying they won't forge. I think even if they want to forge, they can at least make a Nike or Adidas or something. Isn't it advertising for domestic products to make an intact new jack? Isn't it that Great Britain is preparing to surrender after Brexit? Haha. Gia, don't worry, at least the person in the portrait is not the Queen, otherwise it would be even more terrifying. She was alive more than 300 years ago, as Soo-yoon thought. This group of people was not slow at all in eating melons, and they must be talking about a portrait of Grandpa Neo at this time. Looking at the chats that were filling up the screen, he suddenly thought of the knowledge point, so he tentatively typed, "Everyone, do you think it is possible that a time traveler brought the shoes back?" After Soo-yoon sent this sentence, the group was quiet for a while, and then several dumbfounded emoticons appeared. Jia, Wang Mang, Su Shen, I know this, Chen Cheo Itun, Su Shen, you are late. We have discussed this possibility. It is basically the same as the probability of the update of the Other World Conquest manual I am following. Zio Hong, I understand. If there is a time traveler, your book can be updated, right? Chen Cheo Itun. Looking at the group chat that was gradually going off topic, Soo-yoon couldn't help but shake his head slightly. It was obvious. Although the controversy caused by the Newton portrait in the circle was not small, everyone's attitude towards it was somewhat ambiguous. They would rather believe that it was fake than believe that there was a time traveler. At this moment, A big administrator suddenly appeared in the group. Chao Yuang, at all members, I have almost found out what's going on with the Newton portrait. This person's avatar is a rising sun from a mountain, which looks like he has seen through the mundane world, but he is one of the top leaders in the Hairline Protection Association. Lu Chaoyuan, a Chinese quantum genius, a Fresnel Prize winner, a professor at HKUST at the age of 28, and the person who broke the world record in photon entanglement physics 4 times, known as Mr. Xiao Yang. With Lu Chaoyuan's tag, a bunch of emoticons suddenly appeared in the group. Then Lu Chaoyuan continued typing. I asked a friend at Churchill College and found out that the portrait is indeed real, but the original owner, Bellum Brisson, may have painted the pair of sneakers on the portrait before his death, and then used some special substances to temporarily cover up the original traces, such as 6-membered ring transition state esters and the like. They are colorless and odorless. When the museum appraises it, it cannot perform chemical analysis on the surface for protection. At most, it can appraise the year of appraisal. These substances will gradually decompose after contact with air. Even if they are not completely dissolved during the entry ceremony, they will inevitably be discovered after the exhibition. After all, the traffic of the 4 major museums is not to be underestimated. It's nothing more than a few days later. Su Yuan, technically speaking, it is indeed justified, but what is the reason? Why did he do this? Chao Yuang, I personally think this is Bellum Brisson's irony about the BCI incident. I specifically checked this person's information. He has lived in Shanghai for more than 10 years. His feelings and impressions of the local area should be positive. In 2018, he even quarreled with others on YouTube because of some blackening remarks. He is a relatively upright person, not a foreigner, and Newton is the founder of modern Western physics. Adding a pair of Anta shoes to his portrait implies that he is wearing Oriental shoes and standing on the shoulders of giants. This satirizes that Great Britain originated from the East, which is completely consistent with the history of the 19th century. I personally feel that this starting point is tenable. Okay, I'm done, I'm leaving. As Lu Chaoyuan spoke, the entire group gradually fell silent. In terms of feelings, Lu Chaoyuan is the top master in the entire group and even in the relevant fields in China, and his connections are still quite reliable. In theory, what he said was closer to the facts. Both Bellum Brisson's starting point and his means of covering up were tenable, at least more convincing than a time traveler or a faker. Seeing this, Su Yun couldn't help but sigh. The popularity of Weibo dropped from 7th to 8th, which basically represents the upper limit of the popularity that Newton's portrait can reach, and Lu Chaoyuan's words can represent a conclusion in the circle. In other words, the popularity of the entire topic is almost here. To verify whether the Easter egg is related to the knowledge point, either find the second Easter egg or discover the real object of the pair of sneakers. The portrait of the calf or the old cow was drawn in 1701. After more than 300 years, it is almost impossible for the shoes to be preserved in their original form. If I have time before dark, I will dig out your eyes. Just as Su Yun was thinking, his mobile phone suddenly rang, and the QQ group interface changed to the incoming call interface. Su Yun pressed the green call button and a moment later, Chu Sheng's voice came from the microphone. Old Su, the substitution reaction was successful, 2 hours faster than we expected. If nothing goes wrong, we can start trying the synthesis tomorrow morning. Chapter 52, Start Synthesis. Old Chu, what's going on? Su Yun had just returned to the laboratory, and he asked Chu Sheng, who was holding a test tube. It's only been more than an hour in total? The substitution reaction was completed so quickly. That's right, wait for me to put this thing away. Hearing this, Chu Sheng carefully put down the test tube, walked to another table, picked up a paper report, and handed it to Su Yun. To be precise, it's 1 hour and 27 minutes. The activity of 5-epoxy-1-hexadecine seems to be much higher than we expected. Su Yun took the report, glanced at it, and nodded. This curve. It seems to be a problem with the temperature setting. I guess it is related to what I asked Xiao Zhao to raise the temperature just now. Old Chu, I'm not a chemistry major. Is the activity of 5-epoxy-1-hexadecine so different at 180 degrees and 170 degrees? Chu Sheng pondered for a while and shook his head. I know 5-epoxy-1-dodecine, but it seems that the understanding of hexadecine in China is relatively limited. The two temperature environments of 180 and 170 are quite common, but it is hard to say if a substitution reaction is added. After all, carbon in is a thing. Materials science still needs to study more. Soo-yoon nodded thoughtfully and stopped talking. Carbonin refers to a chain of carbon atoms gathered together, which are connected by double bonds or alternating single bonds and triple bonds. Carbonin has been proven to be more than 200 times stronger than steel and twice the tensile strength of graphene. It is considered to be the strongest material in the world, with a strength of more than 40 times that of diamond. It was proposed in 1885, but it was not until April 21, 2016 that the University of Vienna produced a carbon chain composed of 6,400 carbon atoms. From the perspective of mass production, it is indeed a new product. Epoxy carbonin is more complicated, and Soo-yoon did not expect it to be the final product. The purpose of introducing this substance is mainly to allow the epoxy terminal in to react with 1-bromo-2-pentyne to form epoxy din under the catalysis of cuprous iodide. Finally, the target pheromone, 3Z, 6Z, 9S, 10R, -9, 10-epoxy 3,6-hexadiene was obtained by catalytic hydrogenation with nickel acetate sodium borohydride. Therefore, 5-epoxy-1-hexadecine is an intermediate product in the whole reaction. Soo-yoon's original idea was just to hope that it could stably play a role in connecting the upper and lower parts. But according to the current situation, this thing seems to have some relatively active chemical properties under certain circumstances. Soo-yoon silently kept this situation in mind and planned to take time to ask a more professional boss. At the same time, he said to Chu Sheng, "Okay, let's continue." Chu Sheng nodded, followed Soo-yoon back to his position, and started to operate again. Perhaps it was because of lunch at noon. Compared with a relatively dry running in the morning, the afternoon research group was like adding lubricant, and it was very smooth to go in and out. After working overtime all night, the research group finally officially synthesized a target pheromone in the early morning of the next day, nearly 10 hours earlier than Soo-yoon originally expected. No words all night. At 1:30 p.m. the next day, Soo-yoon stood in front of the main operation table again. My fellow juniors, he looked around. And it seemed as if the last time he saw 6 people gathered together was yesterday. After everyone's unremitting efforts yesterday, we have passed the first step of this project. Without further ado, let's have a snack tonight, pa. As soon as the voice fell, Tang Yikyu and others applauded. Then Soo-yoon paused and continued, "In addition, starting from today, we will carry out the synthesis of pheromones and imidacloprid. This link mainly has 2 steps. One is to give a directional cyclization to CH3 through asymmetry, and the other is the synthesis of new substances. The structure of the target pheromone we synthesize is very complex, and no one can be sure whether a CH3 can be accurately removed for cyclization, so please work together and strive to make a good result. Okay, that's all I have to say. Let's start the experiment." He waved his hand and everyone returned to their seats. Soo-yoon came to the main operation table and personally took charge of the main steps. Xiao Tang, Soo-yoon was doing the preliminary preparations seriously, and said to Tang Yikyu, "Add protective argon first." Understood. After the argon was added, Soo-yoon began to add 50 mol of anhydrous LTHF and 20 grams of hexamethylphosphorymide to the 250 ml Schlenk reaction bottle, stirring and dissolving. After the treatment, he lowered the temperature of the reaction system to -78, added 2.52 grams of propargyl alcohol, and then added N-butyl lithium drop by drop with a syringe, and raised the temperature to -30. After another 3 hours, the stirring reaction occurred fully. Xiao Tang, prepare 22.50 mol of 1-bromodecaine, at the same time. In the invisible microscopic field, some wonderful reactions are quietly happening. LTHF, strictly speaking, should be called LTHF. The former means low temperature, that is, low temperature, and HF is hydrogen fluoride. LTHF and hexamethylphosphorymide are like 2 young boys and girls who are just beginning to fall in love. They like each other but dare not express it. They hesitated for a long time, but only advanced to the point of borrowing an eraser. At this time, 1-bromodecaine, who couldn't stand it, appeared. It was like a common gangster in novels, blocking the weak hexamethylphosphorymide one afternoon. "Don't come over here, let go, hey, little sister, do you want to be a duolang?" 1-bromodecaine approached hexamethylphosphorymide, forced her to the corner, and even grabbed her little hand. "Stop it." At this time, LTHF, a pure love boy without the attributes of a minotaur, appeared. He first picked up a stone from the floor. A hydrogen was decomposed on propargyl alcohol, and threw it hard at one bromoundicane. The stone hit one bromoundicane heavily, splashing a red blood stain, 3 carbons. While one bromoundicane was covering her head and wailing, LTHF grabbed hexamethylphosphoramide and turned and ran. After running to an empty alley, hexamethylphosphoramide raised its head, and 6 pairs of methyl eyes looked at LTHF with tears in their eyes. "Why did you save me?" LTHF smiled and scratched the back of his head, his eyes wandering. Because after mumbling for a long time, he still didn't have the courage to say the words "I like you." Just as the boy hesitated and dared not speak, he suddenly felt a soft wetness at the corner of his mouth. He suddenly widened his eyes and looked straight ahead, but suddenly met 6 pairs of loving eyes. Hexamethylphosphoramide stretched out 3 pairs of hands representing nitrogen, tightly hugged LTHF, and the second mouth representing oxygen said softly, "LTHF, I like you." Snap! At the same time, in the laboratory, Soo-yoon clapped his hands heavily. "Perfect, the reaction is completed." Chapter 53 The Fourth Generation, Breakthrough. The cyclization of the target pheromone went very smoothly, but Soo-yoon did not relax at all. The use time of this biomedical laboratory is 14 days. Although on the surface, the research team can be considered successful as long as they can solve the synthesis of the 4th generation of imidacloprid within this time. But as mentioned earlier, Soo-yoon's ultimate goal is far from being as simple as a 4th generation. Because this experiment requires a large amount of equipment, the entire project has borrowed the name of Dian Liangwee's auxiliary project since the project was established. Once the time limit is over, even Dian Liangwee will find it difficult to provide Soo-yoon with such good experimental conditions. Therefore, this can be said to be Soo-yoon's best opportunity at present. Once it is missed, the development of the 5th generation of imidacloprid will be delayed at best, and the opening of knowledge points and space-time copies may be affected at worst. Therefore, after completing the cyclization of the target pheromone, Soo-yoon and others did not slack off at all, and continue the stirring reaction for 12 hours. And in the early morning of the next day, the reaction was quenched with a saturated NH4Cl aqueous solution under ice bath cooling. At this point, the only thing left is the synthesis of pheromone-binding protein and imidacloprid, which is also the main direction of several biological graduate students. This step is simply a matter of trying your luck. The cyclized pheromone-binding protein is like an iron ring. For ease of understanding, let's assume that it is divided into 12 grids according to the clock scale. What Soo-yoon and others have to do is to throw a small steel ball from top to bottom. Since they have cyclized the 9 to 12 o'clock direction, the landing point of the steel ball must be between 9 and 12. But this scale is far from being precise enough. Only when the steel ball lands steadily on the number 46, can the synthesis of Soo-yoon and others be considered successful. Please note that this is only a relatively easy to understand statement from a macroscopic perspective. In fact, the scale number on the disk is countless times larger than 12, such as 22,440,484 pairs. In the laboratory, Joe Piao looked at the numbers sequenced by the Illumina Hisakai throughput second-generation sequencing platform and said to Soo-yoon steadily, "Senior, we studied the binding ability of 2 OBPs with a target pheromone through small molecule fluorescence competitive binding experiments. The total amount of base data obtained is about 6.6 G, and the reading after filtering out the original data is 22,440,484. The genome alignment consistency of the target pheromone and the American cockroach sample is about 84.62%, and that of the German cockroach is 83.68%. The theoretical value of the binding rate is 648, 22,440,484 to 648, a probability of 1 in 35,000. This is by no means a simple matter." Hearing the number, Soo-yoon nodded slightly, and turned to look at Chu Sheng. "Old Chu, it's up to us." Chu Sheng patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile, "Nothing to say, just work hard. At worst, I'll sacrifice my beautiful hair for this." As he said that, his expression became serious. He picked up a piece of paper similar to a supermarket receipt and looked at it for a few seconds. 19.10 and 19.36 kDa. The position of the protein electrophoresis bands is consistent with the predicted molecular weight. Xylran, let's go directly to the fluorescence competition binding test. Try to measure the binding ability of 3,11-dimethylene heptacosin 2,1 and the target pheromone within 3 hours, so that we will be much more relaxed. Ren Yuan adjusted his glasses and skillfully combined the two reagents that had been prepared long ago. Su Yun stood in the ventilated clean bench, added 1 of the quantitative target pheromone, 4 of anchored oligo, 10 of 2's reaction mix, 1 of GNAR remover, and finally added RNase-free water to a mixed solution volume of 20 il. Then he flicked the 20 il mixed solution in the test tube to mix it, and handed it to Zhou Piao. Zhao Zhou, set 42, incubate in the PCR instrument for 15 minutes, and then heat at 85 degrees for 5 seconds. Then quantify the synthesized Na template, and store it in an environment of -20 degrees after passing the 1.2% agarose gel electrophoresis test. Zhou Piao took the test tube and nodded heavily. Don't worry, senior, if yesterday's cyclization experiment was a Cthulhu dog food article, then today's synthesis experiment is undoubtedly a healing story. It was awakened from its slumber. The companions around urged it, hey, it's time to get up. You haven't moved since the last cycle. Oh, it remembered that it was a linear polymerase and had not yet encountered its sigma factor. Although Christmas had just passed a few days ago, it was just an ordinary night for it. It followed its companions and walked. After an unknown amount of time, it heard a gentle call in its ear. How are you? It turned its head and saw a beautiful figure, standing tall and graceful, with a smile like a flower. It didn't know how to answer for a moment, and could only say dryly, hello. She was so beautiful that it didn't dare to pray for anything. Maybe she just came to ask where the nearest promoter was, where the polymerase had much stronger synthesis ability than it. I'm an oligoprimer. I accidentally got lost. Could you please show me the way? It looked into her eyes and said without hesitation, sure. It gentlemanly connected a binding domain, and she shyly acquiesced. They strolled in the nuclear matrix, counting the beautiful bands on the chromosomes with her. In this way, I don't know how many cycles have passed. One day, she suddenly shook its Greek letter beta clamp in surprise. Look there. It looked in the direction of her finger, and there was a sequence. Isn't that the code of love? She ran all the way over and gently leaned on the -35 sequence, looking intoxicated. Looking at this scene, it suddenly plucked up the courage. Can you be my girlfriend? Her expression suddenly froze, and a trace of bitterness rose on her face. I am just a primer, and I may die tomorrow. Our union is cursed. Definitely not. We will definitely be happy forever. It hugged her and stretched out the two tightly bound complementary chains. She did not resist too much, so they began their love journey. Everything went smoothly. It looked at the messenger chain that continued to extend behind it, looked back at the cutest girl in its eyes, and the impulse to protect her for life surged in its heart. It is a blessing to have such a lovely girl accompany you for a lifetime. In this way, another period of time passed. However, one day, an accident occurred. The temperature of this world suddenly began to drop, and a large amount of matter began to wither, freeze, and even die. It used all its strength to tightly surround her, but with a bump, the structural domain that combined it with her suddenly loosened. It screamed heartbreakingly, hold on to me, don't let go. I will find a way. Her helpless response came from the shaking, with despair and crying, it's useless, I can't do it. After a cycle, she was getting farther and farther away from it. Finish her messenger chain, I will love you forever. Her small figure slowly faded out of its sight and disappeared into the cold nuclear fiber layer. It screamed to the sky in despair, angrily scolding the injustice of fate. But the road it should take must go on, but now it is alone. It struggled to open the bonded double chain and placed the nucleotides one by one. Each base represented its deep longing for her. But gradually, it also felt tired. The surrounding electrons continued to attack its core protein, and its subunits gradually loosened. The most shocking thing was that behind it, a short ubiquitin chain had been extended from an unknown time. It understood that its life was about to reach the end. In its dying moments, her smile flashed in its mind. It turns out that I have always missed her so much, and it turns out that I have always loved her deeply. Then it dragged its body and walked slowly, and finally came to the outside of a deep pit. At this moment, there were countless polymerases like it lying in the deep pit. It was not difficult to see from the double strands that they had also met their own her. It moved to a corner with some effort, looking at the sky without focus. Is it that the combination of primers is destined to have no results? In the haze, her three-dimensional structure emerged in front of him. She seemed to be smiling at it and opening her arms to it. At a thousandth of a second before its consciousness was about to dissipate, Two figures, one large and one small, suddenly appeared in his peripheral vision. It was a fellow of the same kind as him. He had no partner by his side, but on one of its strands, it was holding a delicate little girl. That's, his breathing suddenly became rapid. In fact, it was not just him. Almost in an instant, due to the teal guidance effect, every id in the deep pit noticed the figure of the person coming. Dear, did you see that? It used up the last bit of its strength and laughed. It turns out that her love is not cursed. At the same time, looking at the tiny red dot on the RPKM value soil, Su-Yun felt inexplicably melancholy. The fourth generation has finally broken through. Chapter 54, 1800 Cockroaches. The writing of the healing story is just a few words, but in reality, it took more than 3 days from the start of the reaction to the generation of the substance. This speed is actually quite fast in the field of synthesis. Some more complex reactions require hundreds of hours of static observation. A project team of hundreds of people spent 4 or 5 months just for a few tenths of a milligram of the final product. A slight mistake in the whole process may ruin all the previous efforts. This is the risk of biochemistry, but also its charm. After confirming that the fourth generation imidacloprid, or the new ring-packed compound, can be prepared routinely, Su-Yun immediately asked Chu Sheng to be responsible for the data compilation work. He left the laboratory, took out his phone in the corridor, and dialed a number. After a moment, a female voice came from the microphone. Hello? Who is this? Sister Gia, it's Su-Yun. Oh, Zio Su, what's up? It's like this, Sister Gia, I've been doing an experiment on cockroach medicine these days. Can you give me some cockroaches from your insect laboratory? No problem. How many do you want? When can I come and get them? Su-Yun thought for a moment and said, 300 dubious, 500 oriental cockroaches, German cockroaches and American cockroaches each. Is it convenient for you now? After a moment, the other side of the microphone came with a refreshing reply, 1800, right? Okay, I'll prepare it for you now, come and get it. After hanging up the phone, Su-Yun breathed a sigh of relief, took the elevator out of the medical center building, and walked towards the West District. The West District of USTC is undoubtedly the area with the most cutting-edge laboratories in USTC besides Science Island, and it is extremely mysterious. Many people who don't know USTC often wonder, why does USTC not have a few national key laboratories, but many majors are still ranked so high? The reason is very simple, because USTC has 2 national laboratories. Actually it should be 2.5 now. As for the other half, just search Baidu, which is far ahead of all universities. What is the concept? It is no exaggeration to say that one national laboratory is equal to more than 10 national key laboratories. So this is also a very magical place of USTC. There are only 20 national laboratories in China, including those under preparation, but USTC has 2 of them, and it is about to have 3. There are more than 300 national key laboratories in China, and USTC has only 2. Among them, the famous National Synchrotron Radiation Laboratory is located in the West District of USTC. This is also the first national laboratory in China, and its significance and status are extraordinary. Synchrotron radiation is also one of the 6 bases that are truly practicing the functions of national laboratories. The remaining microscale is a little cold, and the quantum information is still under preparation, but from the results of the past few years, it is undoubtedly promising. In addition, there are reverse field fusion KTX laboratory, shockwave laboratory, etc. In addition to many physical laboratories or research institutes, there are also some small laboratories or research institutes in the West District that are not well known. For example, the one in front of Su-Yun at this moment. Insect Research Institute. This Insect Research Institute is affiliated to the School of Life Sciences. The building has only 3 floors. There are more than 20 researchers in total, divided into 6 research directions. After showing the access code, Su-Yun walked to a reception room with ease. After a few minutes, a girl in a white coat with a ponytail walked in. Zio Su? Are you here? Su-Yun stood up quickly and greeted her with a smile. Sister Jiajia, long time no see. The person's name is Jiajia, a senior student of Su-Yun's major. She is 27 years old and works as an associate researcher in the Insect Research Institute. Jiajia was one of the people who introduced Su-Yun to the penguin group that protected his hairline. After meeting Su-Yun, Hijiaji handed over several light-shielded sealed suitcases, which were as big as 2 suitcases. Here, all the cockroaches you want are here, 1,800 are just right. By the way, how come our great genius Su has the time to make cockroach medicine? Is there any new breakthrough in dinitefurine? Su Yun took the suitcase and shook his head at the same time. It's not dinitefurine, it's imidacloprid. Oh, imidacloprid. Su Yun nodded at her gently. Yes, imidacloprid, but the specific situation is not clear in a few words. I may publish a paper or something in the future. Sister Jiajia, you can pay attention to it then. What journal? Metalomics. It's hard to say. Let's strive for Zone 3. Su Yun didn't set too high a flag for himself. He had a brief conversation with Hijiaji for a few more words, then turned around and said goodbye. After leaving the Insect Research Institute, he returned to the laboratory with a portable biological box full of cockroaches and reunited with Chu Sheng and others. Then, with the help of Li Wei and others, they divided thousands of cockroaches into more than 20 petri dishes. Hijiaji was very considerate this time to classify the cockroaches by gender based on race. The ratio of male to female was about 1:4, with more females than males. The cockroaches that Su Yun brought back this time were divided into 4 types: dubia, oriental cockroach, German cockroach and American cockroach. Among them, dubia is positioned as a pet food, which is similar to the nature of cherry cockroaches. Some enthusiasts who raise spiders, centipedes, shrews, and ants will mostly choose one of dubia or mealworms for long-term feeding. The remaining oriental cockroach, German cockroach and American cockroach are all common cockroach species in China. Among them, German cockroach is common in the north, and American cockroach is more common in the south. The legendary southern cockroach that will fly towards your mouth and even the leg hair can be seen clearly refers to the American cockroach. Su Yun looked at the cockroaches crawling in the ecological box. His face rarely took on a gloomy look. Then he looked at Li Wei beside him, took a deep breath, and said, Xiao Li, prepare to test the medicine. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55, Big Mantis, It's Time to Take Medicine. Considering the problem of occasional experiments, Su Yun and others used 6 culture containers for the first experiment, with a total of more than 500 cockroaches, densely packed and pitch black. Looking at the cockroaches covering the inner wall of the culture container, Su Yun suddenly had a picture that he had imagined before, an invisible deep pit with tens of thousands of cockroaches living inside, a person losing balance outside and falling down, and then being drowned by cockroaches. Ugh! Su Yun quickly drove away this picture and put his mind back to the operating table. Imidacloprid is a biological poison that acts on nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. Its operating principle is mainly to interfere with the motor nervous system of pests to make chemical signal transmission fail, thereby killing the target from a physiological perspective. As for its transmission principle, there are 2. One is to attract cockroaches through physically mixed glue bait. The chemical perception range of cockroaches is as long as 200 meters, so many cockroaches will come to chew the poison when they smell it. But the cockroaches that can be attracted in this case are ultimately a minority, and the real insecticidal effect of imidacloprid lies in the second category. That is, cannibalism of cockroaches. Yes, cockroaches will eat the corpses of their own kind. Live cockroaches like to eat the corpses and excrement of dead cockroaches, so when walking on the road, you can occasionally see some cockroach corpses with their tails or heads hollowed out, which are the remains left by cannibalism. The spread of imidacloprid takes advantage of this habit, but the number of generations that imidacloprid can act on is generally no more than 3 generations, and dead cockroaches do not carry pheromones, so the effect of attracting the same kind is limited. At present, the best civilian imidacloprid glue bait in China is Bayer's Bayer, which is expensive but has amazing effects. A drop of rice-sized glue bait can kill about 60 cockroaches continuously, and the number of generations is between 2 and 2.5 generations. In addition, the well-known Tibetan fox teacher Xiaolian once shared a recipe, which is boric acid powder plus sugar plus mashed potatoes. The ratio of boric acid powder to sugar is 1:1, and potatoes are appropriate. In order to be able to knead a ball, put a little in each corner and it's ready. The main ingredient is boric acid powder, which can cause cockroaches to die of dehydration after eating it. The sugar is to attract cockroaches, and the potatoes are to be kneaded into balls. The effect of this formula is still quite good. You can basically see relevant comments under the boric acid merchant Santiago Bayo, and by the way, talk about water monkeys and so on. Let's return to the laboratory. Beimishi is basically the ceiling of the current broad-spectrum cockroach killer. There are some that can exceed its effect, but it is difficult to achieve mass production. However, to be honest, the number of cockroaches that can be killed by ordinary doses of Beimishi seems to be a lot, but for large-scale prevention and control, it is just so-so. It can kill a small room of 30 square meters, but a large house of more than 100 square meters must rely on money and quantity. Therefore, Suyun's goal is obviously not as simple as just being at the same level as it. After everything was ready, Suyun picked up the dropper and squeezed a 4th-generation imidacloprid gel bait on each of the 3 small plates. The other 3 small plates were filled with Beimishi, the cockroach killer produced by Nihon Kobayashi Pharmaceutical, and the 2 insecticide produced by Maple Leaf Country as a control. The gel bait is about the size of a grain of rice, translucent, and looks a bit like Voltaren cream. The biological containers for placing the 4th-generation imidacloprid gel bait are number 1-3, and the latter 3 are number 4-6. Then Suyun and others put the small dish into the bottom of the container through the container's lifting equipment, turned on the camera to observe the effect. Suyun first observed the biological container with node number 2, which is a rectangular block with a size of 45x30x20, and some drinking water is placed inside. The cockroaches brought back from Hijiagia are very lively, constantly crawling on the bottom and the wall of the container. You can clearly see the leg hairs and slightly open and closed wings of the American cockroach, as if they would hit you in the face without the container. The small dish containing the gel bait vibrated slightly when it touched the bottom of the container, and the cockroaches in the container suddenly became busy, but after more than 10 seconds, these cockroaches gradually returned to normal. More than 10 seconds passed. The chemically hybrid pheromones in the 4th-generation imidacloprid began to float, gradually attracting 3 or 4 cockroaches to come closer, and soon began to gnaw on the glue bait. At the same time, the cockroaches in containers 4-6 remained unmoved, and only a few cockroaches took a few tentative steps forward. In container 2, several cockroaches that had eaten the glue bait retreated one after another, and then a group of new members came up. This situation continued for 3 rounds, and in container 4 where Beimishi was placed, cockroaches began to take the first bite. It was obvious. Although they both contain pheromone ingredients, the effects of chemical synthesis and physical mixing are very different. Then, after a few minutes, the cockroaches in box 6 officially gathered around the glue bait. Seeing this, Suyun looked at Zhou Piao and asked, "Zio Zhou, how much time has passed?" Officially, it was 26 minutes and 36 seconds. Box 1 consumed 4 rounds, Box 2 consumed 5 rounds, Box 3 consumed 4 rounds, Box 4 consumed 2 rounds, and Boxes 5 and 6 consumed 1 round each. Suyun nodded and was about to encourage Zhou Piao when Ren Yonkin, who was standing by, suddenly said excitedly, "Senior, look at Box 2. This cockroach has reacted." Suyun quickly moved forward and looked in the direction Ren Yonkin pointed. It was an American cockroach about 4 centimeters long. At this time, this cockroach was leaning against the wall of the container, its antennae spinning rapidly, its wings spread to the maximum extent, and it looked very excited. Then, after another 20 minutes, this American cockroach could not even stand on the wall of the container. Its supporting legs lost strength and it fell to the bottom of the container with its back facing down. Although it turned over quickly, judging from the speed at which it climbed up, it was obvious that there was something wrong with its motor nerves. As expected. More than 10 minutes later, the cockroach suddenly turned over, and its 6 legs began to dance feebly in the air. More importantly, due to problems with the motor nerves, the binding proteins in the cyclic pheromones that had penetrated deep into the bone marrow began to react with the pheromone receptors on the surface of the olfactory sensory neurons. Tissue expression began to become disordered, and a large amount of pheromones began to spread. In the next 20 minutes, a large number of male cockroaches gradually gathered around the female American cockroach, and they looked extremely excited and aroused. However, due to the special circumstances of some of the first-generation bodies, many male cockroaches did not start group sex. The female American cockroach completely lost signs of life in the presence of countless peers, and then the male cockroach has brutally gnawed its head. Chapter 56. Are you a devil? When the female American cockroach died, more than an hour had passed since the cockroaches first ate the glue bait. Therefore, except for this unlucky one, the first batch of cockroaches that ate the glue bait also had reactions one after another. At this time, in containers 1 to 3, you can clearly see multiple cockroaches gathered in groups, rustling and having a carnival. In sharp contrast, there are scenes in containers 4-6, more than 40 minutes later, even in container 4, which has the best drug effect, only 5 or 6 cockroaches have become excited. Then another hour passed. In container 2, the male cockroaches that ate the female cockroaches also began to show abnormalities one after another. At the same time, due to the escape of pheromones, each male cockroach was surrounded by multiple female cockroaches. The bodies of the dead male cockroaches also became the stomachs of the female cockroaches. Then this batch of female cockroaches dispersed one after another, and the next round of transmission was repeated over and over again. 8 hours later, only a few cockroaches in containers 1-3 still had signs of life, and the rest were either incomplete bodies or completely dead. In container 4, there were only about 10 dead cockroaches, and about 15 or 16 cockroaches in a state of hyperactivity and poisoning. As for containers 5 and 6, there were even fewer dead cockroaches, both of which were in the single digit. Seeing this, Tang Yiqiu, the youngest among the group, couldn't suppress her emotions and immediately exclaimed, "Senior, it seems that our experiment was very successful." As a senior student, this was her first time participating in a project of this level. Seeing the results of the research group, how could this little girl not be excited? But to her surprise, Su Yun shook his head gently. Success? Xiao Tang, this is not a success yet. It is true that we have developed the 4th generation of imidacloprid, but is it really the perfect form of imidacloprid? Seeing that the schoolgirl was a little confused, Su Yun pointed to the biological container and said, "Let me ask you, in the experiment just now, what did the cockroaches do after eating the corpses of their own kind?" Tang Yiqiu blinked in confusion and answered subconsciously, "The nerves were excited, and then they emitted pheromones to mate with cockroaches of the opposite sex. See, isn't this the problem?" Su Yun clapped his hands and smiled. "The volume of the biological container we prepared is limited, which leads to all the cockroaches inside being covered with pheromones and then mating behavior. But in the living environment, the range of cockroaches' activities is more than just such a small container. Their biological density may not be comparable to that of the container, but the complexity of their travel routes and odor intersections is much higher than that of the container. This is the difference between the experimental environment and the real environment." Tang Yiqiu nodded as if she understood, her ponytail swinging behind her back, and asked, "So, Senior Su, are you planning to improve the pheromone protein and expand the range of pheromone dissemination?" No, you misunderstood me." Su Yun shook his head quickly and said, "What I mean is that according to our current imidacloprid formula, if a male cockroach A only attracts female B before dying, then what if one or several male C happen to pass by here at this time? If luck is good, C may wait until B and A have finished mating and then be attracted by B's pheromones, and then mate with B and get poisoned. But the drug has a time limit for onset. What if C dies first during the drug's incubation period? Would this result in a considerable portion of the targets being unable to be covered?" Looking at Tang Yiqiu and the others who were stunned, Su Yun smiled happily. "So, can we add an attractant to the pheromone protein so that the pheromones emitted by those first-time nibbling cockroaches are indiscriminate, so that A can attract C, that is, A and C mate, or males exchange lymph fluid?" After Su Yun finished speaking, the whole laboratory fell into silence. After a few seconds, Tang Yiqiu and Zhou Piao said in unison, "Senior, are you a devil?" Su Yun shook his head and explained seriously, No, I am just making a logical supplement from a realistic perspective. After all, we have a biological model as a basis. In a standard 1-kilometer residential area, the number of daily interactions between same-sex cockroaches is only 0.37 times. So the situation I said is very likely to happen in reality. Moreover, if the problem of attractants can be solved, we may even be able to develop corresponding insecticides for mosquitoes and flies in the future, which is also a very broad space. Su Yun said this with confidence. because one of the core points of the 5th generation imidacloprid formula we obtained is that it can produce specific attractants through cell fusion, thereby causing cognitive disorder in cockroaches. Of course, it also contains billions of personal emotions, which will not be mentioned here for the time being. Su-Yoon paused and said seriously, finally, it's about the efficiency of insecticide. Although our 4th generation imidacloprid is much faster than the other 3 types of glue baits, I think the binding speed of the target protein is still a bit slow. Considering the attraction effect of the movement of living bodies, I personally think that 20 minutes for the 1st generation and 1 hour for the 2nd to 5th generations should be a more reasonable configuration. After all, cockroaches will attract their own kind to eat them after they die. Previously, considering that the research team had not yet successfully developed the 4th generation imidacloprid, Su-Yoon retained some of the optimization directions for the 5th generation imidacloprid and did not announce them. After all, it was a bit too ambitious to talk about the 5th generation before the 4th generation had been broken through. However, now with the technological breakthrough of the 4th generation imidacloprid, some of his ideas can be brought to the table. For example, the target of imidacloprid is nacre, which is the R81 arginine residue in the looped region of the Greek letter beta-1 subunit. The binding time is generally not less than 30 minutes. So, can we add some other ideas? For example, inhibiting acetylcholinesterase, or acting on sodium channels. Looking at everyone who is lost in thought, Su-Yoon continued, mammalian sodium channels have 9 subtypes, namely NAV1.1, NAV1.9, and the subtypes of insects are a bit more complicated. We also need to deduce the binding formula of the receptor, but we have passed the most difficult threshold of serialization. And the remaining links will undoubtedly be much easier, so everyone, work harder, strive to let the cockroaches ascend to heaven as soon as possible. Chapter 57, Big Moves of the School of Physics. In the previous 1665 copy, the 5th generation imidacloprid formula that Su-Yoon obtained had a very conspicuous hint. This is a good thing, but it is not so easy to really master it. Therefore, the entire formula is not a foolproof one-button operation guide. It only gives some directions and structural expression graphics. There are many links that Su-Yoon needs to use his hands and brain to crack, such as the previous pheromones, and the targeted combination between the 4th and 5th generations. In layman's terms, you can't get something for nothing. However, compared with a cyclization breakthrough from the 3rd to the 4th generation, the difficulty of the 4th to the 5th generation is undoubtedly much smaller, that is, the span is relatively not that large. The 4th generation determines the structure, and the 5th generation supplements the function. The former is the key link of qualitative change. Therefore, after establishing the direction that needed to be optimized for the 5th generation, Su-Yoon assigned the tasks for the next stage. Old Chu, next Chu will lead Xiao Tang and Xiao Li to be responsible for the research and development of homosexual attractants, and I will be responsible for the derivation of the sodium channel receptor binding formula. We will keep in touch at any time. There are many existing examples of homosexual attractants in the biosphere. The key lies in the conformational change interception of the sensing domain. The operation is not particularly difficult, so let's set a time. The laboratory will be used for 9 days, so let's try to break through the attractant barrier within 6 days. Chu Sheng looked at Li Wei and others and nodded heavily. Old Su, don't worry, I will take care of this. After handing over the task of the laboratory to Chu Sheng, Su-Yoon simply packed up the materials, put on his regular clothes and left the laboratory. Students who are not mad at the biology teacher should know this. There is a channel on the membrane of all animals that allows a small amount of Na ions to enter the cell along its electrochemical gradient, that is, the sodium ion channel. It was discovered by British scientists Hodgkin and Huxley and can be divided into 2 types, voltage-gated and ligand-gated. Sodium ion channels are the main trigger for electrical signals in all animals, and electrical signals are the basis for controlling a series of physiological processes such as neural activity and muscle contraction. Therefore, if the inactivation and deactivation of insect sodium ion channels can be regulated, the time of transmembrane sodium ion flow can be prolonged, causing nerve excitability conduction disorders, which can also accelerate the killing of insects. According to the task assignment just now, the derivation of the sodium ion channel receptor binding formula will be handed over to Su-Yoon alone. This is not an easy task, so he plans to go to the West District Library to check some information first. However, He had just walked 2 steps away from the medical center when the phone in his pocket vibrated. "If I have time before dark, I will dig out your eyes." Su-yoon took out his mobile phone and saw a number marked on the caller ID, Pan Shui. Su-yoon was startled when he saw this, and quickly pressed the call button. "Director Pan, are you looking for me?" A few seconds later, a strong male voice came from the other side of the microphone. "Yes, it's me. Xiao Su, where are you?" "I'm in the Central District, at the medical center, and I'm going to the West District Library to check something." "What a coincidence, I just came out of the Tongfang laboratory. Let's meet at the entrance of the library." "Okay, wait a moment, I'll be there soon." After hanging up the phone, Su-yoon didn't dare to neglect it, and hurriedly took a taxi to the West District. More than 10 minutes later, Su-yoon prepared a small bag and rushed to the entrance of the West District eat alone. At this moment, Su-yoon saw a figure that was quite familiar to him standing at the entrance of the library. This person looked to be in his early 50s, with a kind face and bright eyes, a cluster of bangs diagonally from left to right on his forehead, and a pair of brown-framed glasses. He was not tall, but his back was extremely majestic. This person was another mentor of Su-yoon, Pan Shui, the first person in quantum communication in China, an academician Pan. Su-yoon walked quickly to the man and greeted him. "Teacher, are you looking for me?" "Oh, Xiao Su is here." Pan Shui turned around and nodded to Su-yoon, casually patted his shoulder, and pointed to the side. "Let's go, let's talk." While strolling, Su-yoon followed obediently. Perhaps because the School of Life Sciences is located here, the greening measures in the West District of HKUST are quite complete, and tree-lined paths can be seen everywhere. Not long ago, the West Lake, one of the attractions in the West District, also introduced 6 black swans from the breeding basin Ludong. The natural environment is more harmonious than the other 2 campuses. Su-yoon and academician Pan were walking casually on a green path. After a while, academician Pan started the conversation. "Xiao Su, your doctoral dissertation defense should be coming soon, right?" Su-yoon picked a dead leaf from his shoulder and replied, "Soon. It was originally scheduled for May next year, but Director Yan helped me to mention March next year. It should be mid-March to be specific." Academician Pan nodded thoughtfully when he heard this. The defense time for in-service graduate students in China is usually December, and for full-time students it is usually May or June, but occasionally an exception can be made for direct doctoral students, and the defense will be held in March in advance. Then he continued to ask, "Xiao Su, I remember that your academic paper in biology has been published." Su-yoon hummed and smiled. "Yes, I published 5 C papers last year, but only 2 of them are really valuable, and 1 barely made it to Zone 2. "That's very good," academician Pan praised, stopped, and looked at Su-yoon seriously. "Then Xiao Su, are you interested in helping me in the next 6 months? Su-yoon was stunned at first when he heard this, but after a long time, the rich scientific research experience accumulated in 2 lifetimes made him instantly understand what academician Pan meant. "Director Pan, is the school going to make a big move?" As a physics graduate student, it was very common for Su-yoon to be called by Pan Shui or several other big guys to help out. If it was just a simple research topic, Pan Shui would not have to ask the above questions. Therefore, it is obvious that the research project that Pan Shui wants him to help with must be a project with astonishingly high specifications, and even strict enough that Pan Shui needs to come in person for the interview. Facing Su-yoon's doubts, Pan Shui nodded gently. "Yes, recently we have made some technological breakthroughs in a field, so we are preparing to launch a new project." Su-yoon looked at him with some curiosity. "Director Pan, can you tell us about the project?" "Of course, if even the name must be kept secret, just pretend I didn't ask. It's not that serious, you can still tell me the name. After all, technology is the core." Pan Shui smiled and waved his hand, looking confident. "If nothing unexpected happens, we will conduct a 15-photon entanglement experiment." Chapter 58, Remarks on the Release. Phew. When I wrote this opening, I still felt a little complicated. After all, it was the first time for a new author to publish a book, lol. But as I laughed, I gradually stopped smiling. Because many readers must know what happened before the publication of this book, which was a 5-day-long sit-up. Day 1, you can't write your book anymore. Day 2, you can write again. Day 3, you can't write anymore. Day 4, you can write again. Day 5, you can't write anymore, let's finish the book. Actually, Before I started the book Conquest Manual, I was prepared for not being able to continue writing or being banned, so not being allowed to write was within my expectations, but I didn't expect it to be so turbulent. 1.4 million words, average subscription of nearly 8,000, stable in the top 15 of the bestseller list, more than 30,000 a month in royalties. It was gone in a flash. It hurts. After the book was finished, many readers asked when I would start a new book, so on the 4th day after the book was finished, I published this book into Unscientific. Actually, according to my plan, if the Conquest Manual can be completed normally, I will definitely change my vest when the book is published. But because the Conquest Manual was not completed normally, I feel embarrassed to abandon the thousands of book friends who followed and subscribed, so I chose to use this account to publish the book. 3 chapters on the first day, no drafts saved, code every day. As I said in a previous chapter, the original name of this book was planned to be The Technological Empire Starts from Eliminating Cockroaches, but it was rejected by many author friends in the embryonic stage, and then the feedback from book friends 10-1 in the previous period also made me realize that I am really bad at naming cac. The inspiration of this book actually comes from life. I won't go into the specific reasons. Anyway, I saw a cockroach one day and suddenly thought of this setting. In fact, I have always felt very strange. Why are there so many black technology articles on Kidian, but there is no one about killing cockroaches or mosquitoes? With this doubt, I used imidacloprid as the first selling point of this book. As for the space-time copy, it is an additional setting derived from it. I am not exaggerating. There are not many authors who dare to write and can write the history of science and technology on Kidian. After all, everyone has his or her own specialty, just like I can't write dog food articles. Then let's talk about the rhythm of this book. To be honest, I seem to have overestimated my reader stickiness, which led to the fact that the reading of this book is not very ideal. I know how Kidian can write in the early stage, but I don't like to write like that. The beginning is shocking the world, the net worth exceeds 100 million in 50 chapters, and flying out of the universe in 200 chapters. That is not the world I want to describe. I think a real science and technology article is not necessarily a novel with a particularly high intention, but a work that can change life in a broad spectrum. For example, kill cockroaches, and kill cockroaches. Ahem. Okay, let's talk about the listing. It will be updated on time after 12 o'clock tonight. Due to the problem of background delay, it may be a few minutes late. Please wait patiently. Considering that the previous book was so miserable, can everyone give a first order? The chapters updated tonight will not be less than 5. There was also an extra chapter about Hook, which I will try my best to complete, that is, a guaranteed 5 chapters, and the upper limit depends on how long I can work on it. Readers who follow my old books should know that I often ask for monthly tickets for extra chapters, but rarely ask for rewards. However, since it is on the shelves tonight, I will make an exception and ask for rewards once. Friends who are willing to support can reward after midnight tonight, because the monthly tickets on the 31st are not counted into the first. The specific rules for extra chapters are as follows: the leader will add 3 extra chapters, I will return the extra chapters of Angel A Anime as soon as possible, and the cumulative rewards will reach 1,000. 3 extra chapters will be added, and it will be announced in the group at the end of the month. I don't think I have much chance to be on the monthly ticket list for new books. There are too many big guys. Just follow the rules of the previous book, 10 ranking, x 10 chapters, and 10 extra chapters will be added if I can be the 10th. As for the average subscription and extra chapters, it is still the same as the previous book, with more than 2,000 readers, and the goal is 1,400 first subscriptions. If it exceeds 100 and the subsequent increases 100, one more chapter will be added. Although the previous book owes dozens of chapters because of this, I would rather pay back the debt than set too high a goal and get slapped in the face. Considering that some students may be worried about not finishing the recommended books, I would like to add that my small trumpet, Sanjiang and homepage strong push will only be eaten after they are put on the shelves. It is not less, but because I did not eat these first subscriptions, it may not look good. Finally, I would like to thank the big guys who have nursed me, including but not limited to Xianrishu Ofu, Tongshu, Liuden Peishu, Jicha, Tingri, Yan Zk, Keng Shanayu, Yidaozin, Hideng Ziataro, Pei Tu Gao, Wang Zijin, Qi Pijia, Feng Chao Huang, Han Yaosi, Dreamcatcher, History Li Chuchu Feng, etc. It's a pity that Sister Lily gave birth to Lily, so there is no nurse for this book, otherwise I can gather poison nurses to summon the dragon. That's about all I have to say. I haven't had any food for a month. Can you please give me a first order for my new book? See you after 12 o'clock tonight. Chapter 59, Encounter in the Library. 15 photons entangled, on the side of the trail. Hearing the words coming out of Academician Pan's mouth, Soo-yoon's pupils shrank suddenly, and he lost his voice in an extremely rare way. Director Pan, 15 photons? Has the technical reserves of the Quantum Information Laboratory reached this level? Photon entanglement is a core indicator of the basic ability of quantum information processing. The more entangled photons are manipulated, the exponential growth of quantum information processing capabilities will be. This thing has an academic name, called multi-photon entangled state, which involves the concept of quantum teleportation. If you don't understand this sentence, it doesn't matter. There is a more straightforward explanation. Quantum teleportation can be regarded as an infinitely microscopic sci-fi teleportation array. Yes, it is the kind of teleportation array that draws a circle and you stand in it, and then after a burst of green light, you are teleported to another place. Its principle is to use the entanglement relationship of photons to transmit bit information to another location out of thin air under the premise of classical channels, that is, in accordance with the theory of relativity. A person or something can be regarded as a macroscopic object composed of countless microscopic particles. Therefore, as long as the technology is perfect enough, it is theoretically possible to decompose a person, teleport, and then reassemble him. Of course, quantum teleportation can only be said to be the prototype of a teleportation array. It is still a long way to go before it can truly transmit macroscopic objects. 12 grams of carbon atoms is 1 mole, which is 6.02310 cap 23. If a person weighs 60 kilograms, assuming that it is all made up of carbon atoms, then there are about 5,000 moles of atoms, which is 310 cap 27. Let's describe the state of an atom as 10 degrees of freedom. Then to describe a person, you need 10 cap 28 degrees of freedom. Those who don't understand the concept of freedom can replace this word with money, and now the frontier has only photons that transmit 15 degrees of freedom. Assuming that there is no World War II and the research direction is correct, it may take 800 years for humans to have a teleportation array that meets standard cognition. However, in addition to this, there is also a theory of technological singularity, which believes that the technological singularity will be reached in 2075. At present, the discussion of this view is very intense and sharp, and Lily's brain is almost typing out. At present, the entanglement of 5 photons, 6 photons, 8 photons and 10 photons is the first to be completed by Academician Pan's team worldwide. It is also worth mentioning that photon entanglement is not the so-called World Championship Cup of a certain mobile game, which is actually a self-entertainment research that only locals participate in. This project has occupied a lot of research resources in various countries and laboratories around the world. For example, Alexei Yukitiv, John Martinez, and the Austrian physicist Peter Zoller, the winner of the 2006 Dirac Prize, all lead research teams in this area. Our country calls it quantum computing superiority, and the Eagle Sauce side calls it quantum hegemony, led by the famous Guja. Academician Pan's team is about to launch an experiment on the entanglement of 15 photons. How can Soo-yoon not be excited? As a practitioner in the physics industry in his previous life, he almost subconsciously wanted to accept Academician Pan's invitation. But when the words were about to come out, he was stopped. The reason is that he is really not suitable to join such a team at this time. At present, the technical barriers of the 4th generation imidacloprid have been broken, and the 5th generation finished product is just ahead. Whether it is the patent transformation of research results, or the subsequent papers or even commercial derivatives, I cannot let myself get away at this time. Not to mention the mysterious claustrophobic space, Soo-yoon has a hunch that the next copy may not be far away. Whether it is the 1665 copy or other new time and space, as long as Soo-yoon completes the relevant tasks, he will definitely get a new reward when he returns. If I join Pan Shui's team, it will be almost impossible to get away in the short term, and the subsequent progress may be greatly constrained. Therefore, after a struggle in his heart, Soo-yoon simply described the topic he was working on to Academician Pan, and said apologetically, "Director Pan, I may not be able to join your team this time. The 5th generation of imidacloprid is also a good research direction, Academician Pan nodded slightly after hearing what Soo-yoon said, and did not insist too much. In this case, I will not force you, let you go for the time being. Mr. Tian has accepted a good apprentice. Tian's Higgin is 66 years old this year, and Academician Pan was born in 1970, so he can be called Mr. Tian. Then Soo-yoon briefly talked with Academician Pan for a few more words, and the two separated and left. Looking at Pan Shui walking in the opposite direction, Soo-yoon suddenly had another premonition in his heart. I am afraid that I will not see Pan Shui for a long time in the future. Then Soo-yoon calmed down and turned to continue walking towards the West District ED. ED generally refers to Automatic External Defibrillator in Encyclopedia, but on the campus of HKUST, ED refers to the West Library of HKUST Library. HKUST ED is 12 stories high, with an L-shaped exterior and a beautiful sunshade arch at the entrance. A fat three-flowered pig named Sanpang can often be seen around it. In addition, HKUST also has Daho who can solve Maxwell's equations and Dabe who can deduce basic elements. It is said that the GPAs of the cats in HKUST are all above 3.8. Ahem, let's get back to the topic. The biological information that Soo-yoon wanted to find was distributed on the 1st and 11th floors. After swiping the card, he started to look up books on the 1st floor. The location of the biological journals and the physical information were located on two adjacent bookshelves. When Soo-yoon came here, there were two girls leaning against each other in front of the physical bookshelf, looking for some information. The two girls looked like roommates or classmates, and they should have a good relationship. When they saw Soo-yoon appear, they just glanced at him briefly and continued to look for the books they needed. Soo-yoon naturally had no idea about the two completely unfamiliar alumni, and started looking for books one by one from the left side of the bookshelf. Insect protein-specific binding receptor. Although there are electronic devices that can search and check directly, Soo-yoon still likes the feeling of holding a card and shaking it gently as a fan to find books row by row. It's not that he is really hot, the wind blown by the card is actually just like that, he just likes to play with it in his hand, just like some people like to turn their mobile phones. The direction of the two girls looking for books is from left to right, and Soo-yoon is looking from right to left, so soon, the two of them approached each other back to back in the middle. At this time, the library was very quiet. I don't know if it was because of some boredom looking for books. One of the girls' voice was not particularly low, and it was clearly transmitted to Soo-yoon's ears. Ning ning, the book describing Newton's life is too difficult to find. This row used to be full of theoretical books. Soo-yoon was not the kind of person who liked to eavesdrop on other people's conversations, but the word Newton from the girl's mouth subconsciously reminded him of the little cow who loved to convince people with reason in the copy. Therefore, his ears perked up immediately and he turned his attention to the next room. Facing his companion's complaint, another taller girl smiled. Don't worry, Yuayu, accompany me to look for a while, I'll treat you to mix a bing chang later. Yuayu sighed and rubbed her hands as if she had accepted her fate. Well, okay, I'll accompany you to look for it. By the way, why are you so interested in the life of Lord New? You can't really believe that the pair of Antashoes are the product of the same era as Mr. New, right? Didn't Professor Lu say in the department group yesterday that it was just a trick using substances similar to six-membered ring transition state esters, purely to ridicule certain people? I just want to find some information to confirm it. After all, it's a coincidence, isn't it? For some reason, when Soo-yoon heard this, with his back to the two of them, he seemed to see the tall girl's soft tone but firm expression in his mind. Yuayu, isn't it recorded in history that Yang Wei's triangle was brought to England by an Oriental businessman and happened to fall into the hands of Newton? Otherwise, Yang Wei's triangle should be called Pascal's triangle internationally. It is because of Newton's endorsement that this triangle is named after a Chinese, Pa. A crisp sound of books falling to the ground suddenly interrupted the conversation between the girl and her companion. Fortunately, the location of this bookshelf is relatively remote, so it did not attract the attention of other people in the library. After a moment, a suspicious male voice came from behind. Classmate, excuse me, what triangle are you talking about just now? Chapter 60 The Real Easter Egg. Excuse me, classmate. What triangle did you just talk about? Hearing this, the two girls who were originally a little surprised by the falling of the books were stunned for a moment, and then raised their heads to look at Soo-yoon. The tall girl looked at him with a strange look and said, It's Yang Wei's triangle. What's wrong, classmate? The other girl named Yui was more careful. Her eyes stayed on the card that Soo-yoon was holding in his hand for a while. The color of the graduate student card and the undergraduate card was different. Although it was not clear whether the boy in front of her was a master's student or a doctoral student, alumni with this degree should not be unaware of Yang Wei's triangle. So subconsciously, the girl felt that the boy in front of her was probably looking for a reason to chat up. This situation is quite common in the library. Some shy ones will pass small notes or use answering questions as an excuse to approach, while others will take the initiative to chat up and ask for WeChat. There are also some tough guys with good grades who are awesome. Most of these people are graduate students. They will secretly write down the other person's reading books and apply to be teaching assistants after determining the target grade. Soo-yoon knew such a brilliant man. He published Su's own 2 papers in his first year of PhD, but ended up working as a teaching assistant in his freshman year to pursue a junior girl. However, tragically, on the first day as a teaching assistant, as soon as the brilliant man stepped into the classroom, he found the junior girl looking at him with a smile on her face. Note, she was sitting on her boyfriend's lap. What a sad story. However, since HKUST has always been rigorous in its academic research, neither boys nor girls have done anything radical. It can be regarded as a normal impulsive adolescence. Unless they are really harassed too much, they will contact the teaching assistant or counselor to intervene. Therefore, the girl named Yui just gently pulled her companion's clothes, indicating that they should not communicate too much. Science students who can use Pascal's triangle as an excuse are probably not right. But Soo-yoon didn't care about these. His mind was completely attracted by what the other party said. You mean it's also called Yang Wei triangle internationally? Yes, what about Pascal? Hearing the word Pascal, the tall girl's brows could not help but frown slightly. Someone who can say the word Pascal can't possibly not know Yang Wei triangle, right? However, out of basic respect for her alumni, she patiently explained, Pascal triangle is Yang Wei triangle, but he announced it much later than Yang Wei triangle, so now the name Yang Wei triangle is used internationally. The girl's voice was very soft, her eyebrows were thin and long, and she moved when she spoke, like willow leaves swaying in the wind in summer. But Soo-yoon's attention was only focused on what she said from beginning to end, and his eyes widened as he listened. After a few seconds, he came back to his senses and hurriedly said thank you to the 2 girls. Then he turned around and left. The 2 girls looked at Soo-yoon, who was running faster than the Western reporters, and looked at each other in confusion. After a while, the shorter girl said with a strange look on her face, Ning Ning. It is said that there are many weird people in the University of Science and Technology since ancient times. Have we seen one today? The taller girl shrugged and took her companion's hand again. Don't worry, let's find the book quickly. It will be closed if we are late. 2 flowers bloom, each with its own beauty. While the 2 girls continued to look for the books they needed, Soo-yoon quickly came to a quiet desk, took out his mobile phone, and quickly typed in the 4 words Yang Wei triangle. Soon, the web page displayed the encyclopedia entry. Yang Wei's triangle is a geometric arrangement of binomial coefficients in a triangle. It appeared in the book detailed explanation of the 9 chapters of arithmetic written by Yang Wei, a mathematician of the Southern Song dynasty in China in 1261. It was later introduced to Europe by silk merchants in the mid-17th century, and was accidentally discovered and studied by Newton in the Cambridge University History Museum in 1665, from which he derived a number of mathematical results. Pascal also discovered this law in 1654, but his discovery was officially announced in 1666 after his death, and the Gallic Academy of Sciences compiled and published relevant papers. In his only autobiography, Newton clearly mentioned that the appearance of Yang Wei's triangle was earlier than Pascal's triangle, and after becoming the president of the Royal Society of Great Britain, he gave the Yang Wei triangle the official and unique name. At the Geneva International Mathematical Congress held in 1992, this geometric arrangement was officially named Yang Wei's triangle. This is also the only internationally recognized high-order theorem in China that belongs to a local person. So far, only a few mathematicians of the ancient school in Gaul have always insisted on calling it Pascal's triangle. International conferences and paper reports all use Yang Wei's triangle as the official name. Soo-yoon then searched for the keyword Yang Wei triangle silk merchant and found that there was no detailed mention of this person. They only used the 4 words silk merchant to promote the product. Looking at the search results displayed on the phone in front of him, Soo-yoon's shoulders suddenly relaxed and he exhaled a complicated breath. According to the results shown in the search results, the emergence of Yang-Wei's triangle did not have much impact on the inherent theorem or results. It just replaced the original role of Pascal's triangle in the history of European mathematics. Just like 1 plus 2 equals 3 was changed to 1 plus e equals 3, it was a simple replacement effect and could not affect the result. In addition, the traces of Su Yun's existence were also erased. Instead, a mysterious silk merchant from the east was replaced, and the place where Yang-Wei's triangle was discovered was changed from Woolsthorpe to the School History Museum of Cambridge University. No Li Fei'er was seen, no Han Li was heard, and no one mentioned Feng Lingyu Yingsek. Everything was so natural, and history did not deviate, but the name of this theorem was changed to Yang-Wei triangle. A recognized Chinese name that does not need to be shared with others. It is obvious. Compared with the pair of sneakers in the previous Newton portrait, Yang-Wei triangle is the real bonus Easter egg. Originally, Su Yun's idea was just to hope that the wisdom of the Chinese sages would no longer be covered in dust in the timeline of the 1665 copy. But who would have thought that his action would actually affect the present world? Even if Su Yun's achievements were unknown, he did not feel sorry at all. This should be the honor that the sages deserved. He just did a little work. Su Yun sat quietly for a long time, thinking, and his eyes gradually became firm. He didn't know if he still had a chance to change the past, and he didn't know if he could still get the reward of the Easter egg by chance, but he was very clear about one thing, that is, now he has the opportunity to push the gears of the future. Although the task system looks a bit exaggerated, its ability is still beyond doubt. Traveling through time and space and changing history is no longer something that the so-called cutting-edge technology can do. The reward for a so-called novice task is so tempting, not to mention the formal tasks or the difficult tasks that may appear. Of course. To realize the reward for completing the task, Su Yun still needs his own efforts. Without sufficient knowledge reserves, no matter how many or how good the rewards are, they are like two-dimensional paper figures, visible but intangible. Then Su Yun took a deep breath, calmed down his mentality, and stood up again. Although the prospect of the mysterious halo is very impressive, his top priority at the moment is not to why those unrealistic futures, but to do his own thing, that is, to derive the receptor binding formula of the sodium ion channel. Chapter 61 The World's Strongest in 30 Minutes. After sorting out his thoughts, Su Yun returned to the bookshelf and started looking for the books he needed. But unlike before, the two girls who talked about Professor Lu and were suspected to be physics majors had disappeared, and it was unknown whether they had found the Newton information they wanted. At this point, Su Yun was somewhat aware that his previous behavior was indeed a bit strange. Fortunately, the school spirit of the University of Science and Technology was clear and bright. If he were in some other schools, he might have been killed before he finished speaking. Then Su Yun shook his head and put these things aside. He spent half an hour looking for 3 books and several journals. After handling the follow-up of borrowing, he returned to his home. As mentioned earlier, there are 9 subtypes of sodium channels in mammals, namely NAV1.1 NAV1.9. At present, there are 6 subtypes that are more deeply studied in biology, and the typical representatives of technical application are some class I antiarrhythmic drugs. For example, quinidine, lidocaine, and propafenone all work by blocking sodium channels. For example, if you are accidentally bitten by spiders, venomous snakes, scorpions, succubi, etc., the toxins also act on sodium channels and produce adverse consequences. As for the sodium channels of insects, the situation is more complicated. In fact, insects have only 1 or 2 voltage-gated sodium channel Greek letter alpha subunit genes, but 2 post-transcriptional modifications, namely selective splicing and RNA editing, lead to the functional diversity of insect sodium channels. In addition, the insect Greek letter beta auxiliary subunits type and TER14 also play an important role in the expression and regulation of sodium channels. Therefore, the binding formula that Su Yun needs to derive is not just a simple combination of proteins, but the binding speed of specific receptors is the main factor. This is like the little blue pill, which takes effect in 200 minutes and takes effect in 2 minutes. To be more specific, it is necessary to consider the crystal structure and modeling of NDTA. At present, many teams in the biological community are conducting research on the sodium channels of insects, but the results are generally not obvious, and it is difficult to form a complete module chain. However, this just gave Su Yun an opportunity to refer to materials from multiple angles. The more important point was that he still had a trump card that he hadn't used yet. At this moment, Su-yoon was sitting at the desk, holding a small black card in his hand and gently turning it. The card was about the same size as a bank card, with an alloy texture, and a picture of a calf's head painted on it, with sharp eyes and confident and flamboyant. That's right. This was one of the rewards for the novice task. The 30-minute calf's invitation to the gods was wrong, and it was an experience card. According to Su-yoon's perception, as long as he secretly activated this card, he would have the thinking ability of the calf at the age of 22, which would last for 30 minutes. How powerful the 22-year-old calf is has been briefly mentioned before, so I won't repeat it here. Tisk, it's a pity that it's only half an hour, it's still a bit short. Su-yoon rubbed his temples with a headache, picked up a pen and paper, and made arrangements. The expression of type must not consume the experience card. It's better not to use the action potential conduction of neurons in the peripheral nervous system. After all, there are many related papers, the binding site must be used. There are more than 2,000 synapses. Su-yoon wrote and drew like this, carefully considering, and spent a full hour before he determined several nodes. First, the expression of type, the open conformation structure, and the derivation of adjacent subunits of the Greek letter beta 1 Greek letter beta 2 chain were completed independently. Secondly, the binding site and cytoplasmic region of the sodium ion channel and imidacloprid were handed over to Xiaoniu. The final combination review was summarized and completed by himself. After determining these steps, Su-yoon immediately calculated. At present, most of the papers on insect sodium ion channels have been submitted to the annual review of entomology. Therefore, among the material Su-yoon brought back, 4 books were past serials of the annual review of entomology. And coincidentally, type 2 is a new immune checkpoint molecule for NK cells, and beyond lying he happens to be an expert in NK cells, so the first problem is not particularly difficult to solve, it's just that no one has turned the decoy protein in that direction. Just like online novels, Chen Dong and Feng He's style is unique, and it is difficult to imitate them even if you want to, but the sign-in articles and courtyard articles, it's not that no one wrote them at the beginning, but that no one thought of these directions. Once someone discovers this kind of subject matter, there will be a lot of followers in the recommendation position in minutes. The reason is the same. Soon, Su-yoon locked onto one of the more authoritative papers, doi 10.33086 JHSV10I2.136. The author is a senior who graduated a long time ago? Stanford Associate Professor. The difference in receptor subtype potentials of the grass bug is 2.345, and that of the American cockroach is 2.344. They are obviously the same way of expression. Very good, this is it. At present, Su-yoon's comprehensive ability is roughly equivalent to that of an associate professor at the University of Science and Technology of China, which is above the level of associate professor, barely equivalent to a full professor in a niche discipline, but still a long way from a full professor in a mainstream discipline. There are many full professors in China who are around 30 years old, so Su-yoon originally set himself the goal of striving to be awarded the full professor title of the University of Science and Technology of China at the age of 28, which is almost the path of academician Xiao Zutao of Nankai University. Of course. Now, as the halo effect gradually manifests itself, Su-yoon's subsequent trajectory will definitely change, but for now, his ability is still at the level of an associate professor, and it is not difficult to independently derive the chemical formula with the reference of the paper. Then Su-yoon used the data in this paper to deduce the 3 data at the first node. Then Su-yoon took a deep breath, solemnly picked up the Mavericks Thinking Experience card, and said inwardly, "Activate." Whoosh, as the command was issued, the experience card instantly turned into a stream of light and escaped into his mind. Su-yoon's temples first felt cold, and in less than a moment, a very mysterious feeling immediately filled his mind. How to say it? It felt like everything suddenly became clear. For example, Su-yoon's eyes inadvertently glanced at a penguin group called Starting Point 7 Groups of Elite Groups, and at this time, an author named the 10th Little Horn was sending a series of mysterious codes. Su-yoon just glanced at it quickly and wrote down all the numbers in the code, magnet, xt equals earn, but soon he came back to his senses and focused his attention on the problem in front of him. At this moment, Su-yoon only thought about the many problems that originally made him at a loss, and came up with many feasible deduction directions. Although these deduction directions are not as exaggerated as the results that can be seen at a glance, Some key links have already found a way to solve the problem. This is the 22-year-old maverick, a genius who laid the foundation of modern mathematics and physics in 18 months. It can even be said that in the next 30 minutes, Soo-yoon's thinking ability has become the world's first echelon in a very short time, and it can even be said to be the strongest today. After the initial half-minute adaptation, Soo-yoon immediately picked up a pen and paper and quickly calculated the combination problem. The action potential threshold is 130 MV, it should be able to reach 133 MV. The process of axonal depolarization of binding proteins should have, well, 5 types, and I don't know which one Lao Chu's inducer is connected to. Forget it, let's calculate it together. The point stimulation of IL-12, IL-15, and IL-18 will use the thesis of Penn University as the deduction base, one of which is from Professor James L. Wine of Tang's school, just like that. Soo-yoon flipped through the calculation data at a speed similar to quantum wave speed reading, and time passed slowly by every second. 3 minutes. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. 20 minutes. At the 26th minute, Soo-yoon's deduction also came to the most critical moment. His forehead veins bulged, his breathing was rapid, he adjusted his posture, and launched a final sprint like the unlocked gap. 3 minutes later, the last few seconds approaching the time limit. Soo-yoon exhaled a long breath and wrote a cell section heavily on the paper, Mc 38. Then he threw the pen away, and a feeling of fatigue that he had never experienced before surged up. Good guy, finally, it's done. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62. Goodbye Tian Liangwei. At 10 o'clock in the morning on the third day, Soo-yoon opened his eyes lazily. After figuring out the protein binding region and binding formula the night before, he used his last bit of energy to summarize the relevant data, saved it in an electronic document, and then climbed into bed after washing up. To be honest, he has been involved in quite a few projects, but whether it is scientific research or typing frantically before 2400 hours for the full attendance award, he has never found that mental work consumes so much physical energy. It can only be said that Mr. Neo is too fierce, and his brain is a little overloaded for a while. After sorting out the relevant information, considering that the time agreed by himself and Chu Sheng and others is 6 days, it seems a bit high profile to go to them the next day. So Soo-yoon deliberately waited for another day and planned to contact the laboratory again this morning. He did nothing during the day of waiting. He played a few games of ambition for the first time in a long time, and then was beaten to a dog by Axiomark. Okay, let's get back to the topic. After getting up, Soo-yoon simply washed up, sat on the chair and dialed the landline number of the biomedical laboratory. After a moment, Chu Sheng's voice came out. Hello, who is this? I'm from the anti-pornography office. We received a report that there is an LSP named Chu Sheng who posts obscene pictures in the group every day. Get lost. Hearing Chu Sheng's friendly and harmonious greeting in the microphone, Soo-yoon also smiled. Okay, Lao Chu, how is the progress of your decoy synthesis? Hearing Soo-yoon mention the business, Chu Sheng's tone gradually became serious. It has been synthesized to 43% this morning. After all, I have the ideas you gave me. Everything is going smoothly. We just have to wait for the reaction results. By the way, how about yours? The combined method has been done. 5 models of axonal depolarization have been developed. On the other end of the phone, Chu Sheng was silent for a full half-minute before he said, tell me, where did you buy the cheat? Make one for me too. Then, without waiting for Soo-yoon to speak, Chu Sheng's tone rose again. 5 models in 2 days. You really are a cheater, right? Director Tian has been here for this, right? Listening to Chu Sheng's excited tone in the microphone, Soo-yoon didn't care much. Young people nowadays are like this, and like to use opening a door to describe some outrageous situations. Okay, don't talk about these nonsense. I just did a preliminary study a few days ago. I will send you the sorted information later. Make the finished product this morning. I have something else to do today, so I won't go to the laboratory. Get lost. After hanging up the phone, Soo-yoon went downstairs to eat a bowl of Longjiang pork leg rice. After paying the bill, he walked more than 50 meters to the right and came to a fruit store. The area of this fruit store is not large, about 30 square meters. In addition to whole fruits, there are also many cut fruits packaged in plastic boxes. The shop owner was from Zhangzhou. He sat at the door of the shop with a small stool. When he saw Su Yun, he stood up quickly and asked enthusiastically, "Student, what do you want to order, big sister?" "2 small boxes of pitaya, white pitaya or red pitaya, white is fine." "Okay, 10 yuan, the price has increased," Su Yun muttered in a low voice, but his hands did not stop moving. He quickly scanned the code to pay. "Okay, big sister, please take a look." "Got it, okay." After paying the money, Su Yun took the plastic bag and took a ride to the Life Science Building in the West District, which is also the office location of the School of Life Sciences. The inspection of the Life Science Building is much more relaxed than that of the Medical Center building. After Su Yun showed his ID, he was quickly allowed to enter. There are many people coming and going in the building on weekdays. After waiting for a round of elevators and finding that he couldn't squeeze in, Su Yun didn't hesitate and simply walked to the 3rd floor and came to a half-open office. Knock, knock, knock. Soon, Tian Liangwei's voice came from inside. "Come in." Su Yun gently pushed open the door of the office, glanced at it familiarly, and pushed the door open completely after confirming that his teacher was not receiving guests. "Teacher, I'm here." As the dean of the School of Life Sciences, Tian Liangwei would stay in the medical center building on weekends or when he had scientific research tasks. When he was free, he would perform the duties of the dean and work in his office. Of course, don't think that he is just sitting there doing nothing or not taking care of things. In fact, in colleges of the level of USTC, almost all college deans have national scientific research tasks, and few of them will handle school tasks. The position that truly manages the overall work of the college is called the executive dean, who is one of the vice deans in terms of level, but is the most powerful one. After entering the room, Su Yun walked straight to the desk and put 2 boxes of pitaya on the table. "Look, these are the pitaya you wanted. Good job, kid." Tian Liangwei opened the plastic bag and took a few glances, then glanced at Su Yun. "Did you buy it with funds?" Su Yun waved his hand and said disdainfully, "How could it be possible? It's a total of 10 yuan. I'm not as shameless as that Li who used funds for a 3 yuan toothbrush and issued an invoice for 300 yuan to reimburse the money." Tian Liangwei nodded with satisfaction, opened the plastic box, picked up a piece of pitaya with a toothpick and put it in his mouth. "Tell me, you're so concerned today. Didn't the experiment fail, and you came to me to cry miserably? Tell me honestly, what instrument did you break? I'm telling you, when I sell myself, I can only raise the price by 20% at most, and I won't give you more than that." Then you guessed wrong. Su Yun took out a stack of 1 centimeter thick lab reports from his briefcase and placed them steadily in front of Tian Liangwei. "Teacher, please take a look at this." Upon hearing this, Tian Liangwei immediately stopped poking the fruit with a toothpick and looked at his student in surprise. The meaning of Su Yun's action was very clear. The laboratory's research had achieved results, and it should be a phased result. Although the plan submitted by Su Yun before seemed somewhat feasible, Tian Liangwei was not very optimistic. People who have done scientific research know that project proposals are often like PPTs for attracting investment, and they look completely different from actual operations. Some are prone to mistakes in operation, while others are purely plans that look fine but do not produce high-quality outputs in practice. Let's not talk about far away, let's talk about USTC. As a top university backed by the Chinese Academy of Sciences, there are a lot of amateur scientists who come to the gate of USTC to submit project proposals almost every day, which is slightly less than that of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Some of these project proposals are outrageous, but some of them are really logically reasonable. More than a decade ago, the school leaders, perhaps influenced by the aftermath of Kigging and special abilities in the 1990s, still had some expectations for folk scientists, so they really provided experimental conditions for some projects. But all of these projects ended in failure. Since then, USTC has completely given up and no longer accepts projects from folk scientists. In addition, when it comes to folk scientists, USTC once had a very outrageous thing happen. In 2013, a folk scientist wanted to submit a project book but was rejected. He dug a pit from Tehu Road like a special forces soldier, avoided multiple security checks along the way, and finally sneaked into building number 3 of Tongfu Laboratory and successfully escaped into the office of a project team. At that time, the leader of the project team thought that the folk scientist was here to deliver documents, But he didn't expect that he would throw his hat like the famous double agent Pangolin, said I don't pretend anymore, and handed the project book to the leader on the spot, saying that he had a great invention that shook the world. At first, the team leader was really curious and took a few glances, but he almost died of laughter. This amateur scientist has tinkered with a perpetual motion machine to ward off ghosts. He claims that he can catch ghosts through magnetic fields, and then let them generate electricity with ghost power, thus achieving the effect of perpetual motion. The fate of this amateur scientist is naturally to be forked out by the security guard, and his story has become a joke in the university. Okay, let's get back to the topic. After learning that Su Yun's research seems to have achieved results, Tian Liangwei stopped joking, took the experimental report, and read it carefully. Point 1 Bromo 2 Pantine base number 22,440,484 to 648 cyclization binding protein. Tian Liangwei read it very carefully, and read the whole report for nearly an hour. During this time, Su Yun did not say a word, just sitting and waiting. Another 20 minutes passed, and Tian Liangwei's eyes finally moved to the last part. 0.08 grams of the 4th generation glue bait has an insect killing efficiency of about 70 insects, 5.5 to 6 effective transmission rounds, and a killing time of 8 hours. Tian Liangwei suddenly raised his head and looked at Su Yun. Xiao Su, you are almost done with the 5th generation. Chapter 63 Patent Sharing. In the dean's office. Looking at Tian Liangwei, who looked surprised, Su Yun pondered for a few seconds and decided to keep a low profile. Yes, in fact, I was just trying to break through the 4th generation of imidacloprid at the beginning, but by coincidence, I suddenly thought of the need for a female to do a second round of transmission between two of the same sex, which might lead to halving of the coverage rate. In addition, I was not very satisfied with the insecticidal efficiency of the 4th generation, so I wanted to try to break through the 5th generation. After all, the most critical 4th generation barrier has been broken through. I didn't expect that after 2 days of division of labor and research, both sides have made breakthroughs. Next, we just need to complete the decoy docking. Su Yun attributed the 5th generation idea to the inspiration generated during the research and development process. This explanation is obviously much easier to accept than I was going to break through the 5th generation from the beginning, which belongs to the category of secondary derivation. After all, as the saying goes, practice brings inspiration. For example, some designers suddenly burst into inspiration when they were halfway through drawing the design, and finally designed a classic building. Similar examples can be found with a lot of eyes closed. When the wings are not yet full, there is no need to be too jumpy. Anyway, the current achievements of the research team are enough to maintain their own personality. Opposite Su Yun, Tian Liangwei pursed his lips and said nothing, his face showing a thoughtful expression. Tell the truth. If he only talked about the results of imidacloprid, he would not be too out of control. After all, it was just a nicotinoid insecticide. As an academician of the Chinese Academy of Engineering and a member of the 100 Talents program, he naturally had a high vision. He was definitely happy, but not shocked. What really surprised him was not the results themselves, but the talent and ideas shown by Su Yun in this research. Although there are a total of 7 people in the entire group, according to the situation in the experimental report, the real core members of the research group are only Su Yun and Chu Sheng, who contribute about 8 times as much as Chu Sheng. Whether it is Ren Yuanqin or Zhou Piao, if they are replaced by other first-year and second-year graduate students with similar grades, it will not have any lagging effect on the results. Looking at Su Yun in front of him, Tian Liangwei suddenly thought of Lu Chaoyuan from the School of Physics. This youngest senior professor at USTC was also the first author in his doctoral studies when he observed the real-time quantum transition and non-destructive measurement of single electron spin for the first time, and published it in the journal Nature. Not made up, true story. Both of them are equally gifted, but if we really compare them, Tian Liangwei shook his head slightly. Lu Chaoyuan's original discovery solved a fundamental problem for spin-based quantum computing solutions, and Su Yun's 5th generation imidacloprid may not be enough to compare with him. The value of the 5th generation imidacloprid lies mainly in business, and its status in the academic world is relatively low. But even so, this is a very rare achievement. Thinking of this, Tian Liangwei couldn't help but look up and look at Su Yun. Xiao Su, how far are you from the 5th generation finished product now? Do you need other assistance? If necessary, I can raise the funding level of your research group to the general project level. Readers who have served as the head of a national scientific research project should know this. Research projects in domestic universities or official institutions generally allocate funds according to their levels. The lowest of these are the Youth Science Fund and Regional Science Fund projects, with funding of about 200,000 to 300,000 yuan. Suyun's cash flow of 400,000 yuan belongs to the Youth Science Fund category. Above these two are general projects, which are also the most approved projects in China each year, with funding of about 600,000 yuan. There are more types of general projects, such as key projects, major instrument development projects, innovative research group projects, and major projects. Funding starts at 1 million or even tens of millions, and there is no upper limit. Although he didn't quite understand why his teacher was suddenly preparing to increase the funding level, Suyun was very clear that Yan Liangwei had taken on a lot of risks when the research group was established, and the current funding surplus was not small, so he chose to reject the proposal. That's not necessary, teacher. Our research group still has 170,000 or 180,000 in cash flow. If you really want to take care of it, just extend the use of the laboratory time so that we can do more control experiments. How long will it be extended? 1 week. What do you think? No problem. Approved. Tian Liangwei waved his hand very generously, like a rich man who paid the bill for a meal. Go back and write me another application, and I'll get back to you within 2 days. Then he hesitated for a moment, motioned Suyun to sit down, and asked seriously, Xiao Su, now that your research group has really achieved results, what are you going to do next? For example, patent application. Hearing Yan Liangwei mention the hard stuff, Suyun also started to get serious. He first poured a cup of tea for Yan Liangwei, picked up a plastic cup and poured a little for himself, and said slowly, Teacher, to be honest, I have also thought about this problem 2 days ago. After all, even if the 5th generation fails, the 4th generation is enough for commercialization. I plan to wait for the patent. If I can break through the barrier of the 5th generation, I will use the 5th generation of imidacloprid to apply for an invention patent. The review time for pharmaceutical invention patents is very long. At that time, I may need the help of the school, as we all know. There are 3 types of local invention patents now, namely invention patents, utility models and design patents. The difficulty of the 3 patents is from high to low, and the quality requirements and validity periods are the same. For example, the patent period of the 1st generation of imidacloprid expired in 2011, so there are many brands of imidacloprid insecticides on the market now, which are low-cost, non-standardized production processes, and uneven effects. Nowadays, the new generation of insecticides of the top brands are all applied for invention patents. The normal review period of invention patents is 2 to 3 years, but for the size of universities such as HKUST, it is very simple to shorten the period. Otherwise, a top university would produce hundreds or even thousands of invention patents a year. If Conan waited according to the standard time, he would have waited until the end. As for why Suyun was sure that HKUST would help, it was very simple. HKUST, as the provider of experimental equipment, could have a portion of the income rights of patent derivatives. Suyun had known about this for a long time and had no objection. After all, the total value of a laboratory's equipment is close to 25 million, and the equipment depreciation during use is generally around tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. It is impossible for you to use this kind of funds without asking for anything in return. At the same time, patents and achievements are 2 different things. The conversion of patent achievements must be signed by the first inventor. Normally, the invention application rights obtained by using the school's material conditions or performing the school's scientific research tasks belong to the school, and the school has the obligation to reward the inventor. However, Suyun's implementation this time was not a scientific research technology scheduled by the school, but an independent project of support. Therefore, according to relevant requirements, HKUST's share is up to 30%. Although this 30% seems a lot, 30% is a very generous ratio in the scientific research community, both at home and abroad. If you take your plan to other institutions or private companies, generally more than 60% will be taken away, and in some cases even 80%. This is an unavoidable link in scientific research, even when Professor Yang was at Stony Brook University. Moreover, The School of Life Sciences will also take a small proportion of the school's share to be used for sufficient scholarships or poverty grants within the school. Soo-yoon is very happy to help his juniors and juniors solve some life problems for them, or provide some possibilities for some less successful teachers in the school. Zio-soo, don't worry, patents are no problem. The school will have channels. You can apply for any of the 4 or 5 generations you want. The specific time will have to wait until you make the finished product. In short, it won't be long. Tian Liangwei made another promise very readily, then he picked up the teacup and took a sip, and asked, apart from the patent, there is only one thing left. Where do you plan to send your paper? Chapter 64 Journal Selection. Paper. In the office, Soo-yoon's face showed a rare hesitation when he heard Tian Liangwei's question. He was silent for a while, and finally decided to tell the truth. Teacher, if there is a chance, I want to publish an article in a Zone 1 journal. Zone 1, Tian Liangwei tapped his index finger on the table, not feeling too surprised, and pondered, Zio-soo, you should know that imidacloprid, as a nicotinoid insecticide, has a material name, but its patent expired in 2011. So if you want to publish an article in a Zone 1 journal, 4 generations are definitely not enough, and 5 generations are the most basic requirement. Is that okay? Soo-yoon nodded gently, indicating that he understood. When it comes to papers, most people may think of the 2 words sea and nature. But in fact, the former and the latter are not the same category of concepts. Sea, many people mistakenly think it is the abbreviation of Science magazine, but this is actually wrong. C stands for Science Citation Index, which refers to a journal catalog index operated by Clarivat Analytics, not a separate journal. If a journal is included in this index, it means that it has a certain quality. You can go to this website to check whether the target journal is indexed. Clarivat Analytics also developed an indicator called impact factor based on the citation data of each journal in the past 2 years. Taking 1992 as an example, the impact factor of a journal in that year is calculated as follows: X equals the total number of papers cited in 1990 and 1991 in a journal in 1992, based on 1992. Y equals the sum of all papers published in a journal in 1990 and 1991, based on 1992. If 1992 equals X 1990, 1991, Y 1990, 1991. Clarivat Analytics assigns different disciplines to different divisions based on the impact factors of different disciplines. The division made by Clarivat Analytics is called JCR division. The top 25% of journals in the corresponding disciplines with impact factors are Q1, the top 50% are Q2, and so on. In addition to Clarivat Analytics, the Chinese Academy of Sciences has also divided journals into 4 zones. The full name of the Chinese Academy of Sciences is Zone as Journal Zone Table of the Documentation and Information Center of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, which also divides journals into 4 zones. But it is pyramid-shaped, with the top 5% of journals in Zone 1, 6% 20% in Zone 2, 21% to 50% in Zone 3, and the rest in Zone 4. The Chinese Academy of Sciences zone is mainly based on impact factors, but there are also certain artificial adjustments. To make a vivid analogy, publishing an C article can be compared to climbing a mountain. There are many mountains, some high and some low. The mountain in front of your house is a mountain, the small hills are mountains, the 5 sacred mountains are mountains, and the Himalayas are also mountains. C journals have many zones, and these zones correspond to different mountains. Whether it is difficult to publish an C article depends mainly on what mountain you want to climb. C and Zone 3 and Zone 4 are probably the mountains that are difficult to climb in small counties or prefecture-level cities. Zone 2 is some famous mountains in the region, and Zone 1 is the 5 sacred mountains, which are majestic and beautiful. The nature subjournals are almost the Himalayas, and as for nature, Cell and Science, they are the well-deserved Mount Everest, also known as CNS. The above is the detailed relationship between the papers, and useless knowledge has been added. JPG. Most of the commonly used in China are the divisions of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, but most people are exposed to Zone 3 or Zone 2 at most. At the same time, when talking about papers, we have to talk about another melon, the price of ghostwriting papers. Friends who often go to Weibo to eat melons should know that two major things have happened in the paper world in recent years. One is that a large number of local Cs have been exposed for fraud, and the other is that after the incident of a certain actor named Jai, the paper duplication check has become more stringent, resulting in some graduate students being forced to publish C to avoid duplication between themselves and their own papers. In addition, the competition in scientific research is becoming more and more fierce, and it is becoming more and more difficult to publish papers, so the price of C papers is naturally rising. At present, the price of ghostwriting for domestic core journals is about 8K, and the price of garbage C with 1 point or a few tenths of a point is 30K plus, 60K plus for 2 points, and more than 100K for 3 points. As for those with more than 5 points, the lowest price is 200K. So why do some people set up paper companies? Because they really make money. Let's return to the original point. After understanding Su Yun's goal or determination, Tian Liangwei also seriously helped him with advice. Su, if you plan to submit to a Zone 1 journal, then the first thing to be clear is that you definitely have no chance in the main journals of Cell and Nature. Is that okay? Su Yun nodded and said frankly, I see. The academic value of the 5th generation imidacloprid is far lower than its commercial value. I knew this from the beginning. Upon hearing this, Tian Liangwei showed a hint of satisfaction on his face. The most important thing in academic research is to have a clear enough positioning of oneself. In that case, let me recommend a few journals to you: Nucleic Acids Res, Trends in Biochemical Sciences, EMBO Journal or Current Biology. Su Yun listened and took notes with a pen. After his teacher finished speaking, he drew a horizontal line in the middle of EMBO Journal. EMBO forget about Trends in Biochemical Sciences. Although it is an old journal, it mainly focuses on DNA, which is somewhat inconsistent with protein. Tian Liangwei did not speak. He only gave suggestions. The final choice was still up to Su Yun himself. Then Su Yun ruled out Trends in Biochemical Sciences. Trends in Biochemical Sciences is not bad, but the review cycle is too long. Moreover, teacher, I remember that its editor-in-chief seemed to have said something not so good last year. Tian Liangwei was stunned at first. Then he slapped his head and said in annoyance, look at my memory. How could I forget about this? Delete it quickly. If we submit this book to this journal, it will probably get 404 on the first day of listing. Su Yun couldn't help but sigh when he heard this. In recent years, due to well-known reasons, some academic journals have gradually put on some tinted glasses, and the entire international academic environment has begun to become a little depressed. Various remarks and even conspiracies against the local area have followed one after another. You said that some magazines don't focus on academic matters. So why do they get involved in this kind of thing? Then Su Yun retracted the thought and moved his gaze to the remaining two journals. With hesitation in his eyes, Current Biology is indeed a good choice. Its IF has been rising since 2016, and the review speed is also very fast. As for this Nucleic Acids Res, teacher, if I remember correctly, it seems to be a commissioned journal. Tian Liangwei nodded and said, yes, IF 13.8, very authoritative and influential, but it is mainly in the form of commissioned articles, with only more than 70 articles published a year. But Xiao Su, if you want to submit to this journal, I can introduce it to you. Su Yun immediately looked at his teacher with an expression of you still have overseas connections. Seeing Su Yun's somewhat surprised look, Tian Liangwei raised his chin proudly, picked up the teacup and took a sip tactically. This is not surprising, right? Your teacher's H-index is at least 77. Do you understand the value of a biomedical professor's H-index of 77? To be honest with you, when your teacher goes abroad to visit, the editor-in-chief has to pick him up at the airport and have dinner with him. After showing off his value, Tian Liangwei's expression returned to calm. I know the editor of Nucleic Acids Res and several external reviewers. One of them is a top scholar among Chinese people. It is not difficult to commission and review articles. After hearing this, if Su Yun still didn't understand Tian Liangwei's thoughts, he might as well stop studying. After all, the review time for conventional papers is really too long. Then teacher, I will prepare the paper according to the requirements of Nucleic Acids Res. Tian Liangwei nodded and said, I personally suggest that you submit to Nucleic Acids Res. After all, it's easier to get things done with acquaintances. Now you can prepare the relevant papers of the 4th generation first. If you break through the 5th generation, you can directly add it on the back page, so that you can save some time. After explaining the journal, Tian Liangwei had a brief chat with Su Yun, and Su Yun left tactfully. I have been working hard until now. The original 5 chapters plus 1 chapter about guessing hook, 6 chapters are presented. I forgot to say, 1 chapter will be added for every 300 monthly votes. So, please vote for me. Chapter 65. The 5th generation finally breaks through. 4 days later. Biomedical laboratory. At this moment, the whole laboratory was filled with a tense and slightly excited atmosphere, and members of the research team in lab coats were constantly walking around quickly. Not to mention Tang Yikyu, a lively girl, Lian Renionkin, a somewhat introverted and shy first-year graduate student, also had a look of expectation in his eyes from time to time. In fact, the reason for the drastic mood swings of these tool people was very simple. After several days of overtime work, the interference protein inducer that Su Yun had previously conceived to track male cockroaches to each other had been successfully born. Now the research task of the entire research team has come to the final and most critical stage. The inducer and the 4th generation imidacloprid were synthesized through the combined method derived by Su Yun to try to see if they can act on the MYC38 cell. MYC38 cells are one of the cells at the forefront of current biological research. It comes from the C57BL/6 mouse colon adenocarcinoma cell line, grows adherently and has a fibroblast morphology. When MYC38 cells are implanted into C57BL/6 mice or immunocompromised mice, tumors and metastases will form. Therefore, related technologies are mostly used to study the occurrence and metastasis of colorectal cancer, and have become one of the common ways to verify the efficacy of tumor drugs. However, this type of cell does not belong only to mice. It exists in large numbers in cockroaches, dragonflies, and mantises. It is a type of cell with more research information in the field of gene editing. And this is exactly why Su Yun locked on this anchor point. First, it is related to the sodium ion channel of cockroaches and is an important electrical signal point for sodium ions. Secondly, there are many relevant experimental results from various authoritative authorities in the biological world, and there is no need to spend a lot of experiments to derive research. While Tang Yikyu and others were busy outside, Su Yun and Chu Sheng were standing in the operation room, making the final preparations for the practical part. Old Chu, are you sure you can do it? Let me tell you, there is no tolerance for error in this round of experiments. If you make a mistake, you have to start all over again. You can't shake your hands at all. You didn't try it last night, did you? Don't worry. I didn't have time to look at the Yamit Ryo I downloaded last week. What are you talking about? Chu Sheng was originally concentrating on adjusting the equipment. After subconsciously replying half a sentence, he suddenly felt something was wrong and glared at him unhappily. Come on, Su Shen, how about you do it? I'll take a notebook and take notes on the side. Su Yun smiled when he saw this. He and Chu Sheng were childhood friends, so he naturally knew whether the other party was really angry. As the saying goes, every profession has its own specialty. Chu Sheng is recognized as the #1 among the doctoral students in HKUST in directing group-assisted synthesis, and Su Yun's advantage is not on this direction. Su Yun's purpose of asking Chu to come over to help was largely for this link, so it was definitely impossible to change people. Just kidding, hurry up and adjust the equipment, and try to get it done as soon as possible. By the way, send me the work of Yamit Raya later. I have a friend named Reader who wants to see it. Material synthesis? This term may be familiar to many people, and their ears are almost calloused from hearing it. But in fact, most people's understanding of this term only stays on the surface, not in depth. For example, what does a biological laboratory look like, and what is the synthesis process? If you really need to describe the steps in detail in words, I'm afraid that not even 1% of people know it. Usually, material synthesis is generally divided into 2 concepts, synthesis of known substances and synthesis of unknown substances. The former is very simple to operate, and the forward synthesis analysis method and the reverse synthesis analysis method are all you need to find the intermediates, which is high school knowledge. As for the synthesis of unknown substances, it is more troublesome. If the synthesis of unknown substances involves biological substances, then it will inevitably involve polymerase chain reaction. Through such a reaction, the original extremely trace amount of DNA molecules can be amplified tens to millions of times. Then, after design, it can be used to extract the required DNA information from trace amounts of biological samples, and can achieve single-cell or even single-molecule sensitivity. At the same time, specific primers can also be designed to combine different DNA fragments to synthesize new DNA molecules. This time, Su Yun and others used solid-phase chemical synthesis, which uses solids such as resins as reaction matrices, on which nucleic acids or protein molecules being synthesized are connected. In this way, by continuous filtering and continuous addition of different raw materials for reaction, different monomer molecules can be connected to them in turn, and the required nucleic acids or proteins can be synthesized according to the target sequence. 20 minutes later, everything is ready, and the synthesis officially begins. Su Yun had previously derived a total of 5 special structures formed by peptide chains, but Jiu Sheng and others used only one of them, the structural formula in which C equals O and NH in the peptide plane are arranged in trans, and the peptide plane is rotated 27 degrees around EN1. Another 5 minutes later, Su Yun looked at Jiu Sheng. Old Jiu, the biological pathway has been verified, and the target cells have been locked. Let's proceed to the next step. Jiu Sheng asked without even raising his head, are the nucleotide monomers protected by DMT? Yes, Jiu Sheng hummed and said nothing. He still believed in Su Yun very much. Then he turned his attention to a male cockroach that was fixed on the operating table and carefully used CRISPR-Cas9 technology to edit it. CRISPR-Cas9 technology was first proposed in 1987. In 2012, 2 female scientists, Jennifer Doudna and Emmanuelle Charpentier, first discovered the nuclease action mediated by Cas protein in the bacterial adaptive immune system. The 2 also won the 2015 Breakthrough Prize in Life Sciences. Since then, CRISPR-Cas9 has also become the most mainstream gene editing system today. Jiu Sheng locked the combined points according to Su Yun's calculations. The target cells were MYC38 cells from cockroaches. The purpose was to use HCD47 MYC38 husel to smash the directional fragment that feedbacks gender recognition. Once this fragment is smashed, the gender recognition of the cockroach will be affected. Under the promotion of pheromones, the previously mentioned A+C ketone-friendly behavior will be carried out. At this moment, the microscopic world inside the body of the unlucky cockroach. This is an extremely vast planet. Under the yellow sky, it is filled with a sinful scene. A spherical pathogenic mycoplasma stepped on a piece of cholesterol, tore it apart with a hissing sound, and swallowed the broken limbs with a grin amid the wailing of cholesterol. Not far from it, another pathogen raised a newly synthesized egg-like membrane protein above its head and violently threw it off the cliff. A little further away, a Coxsackie virus swung its double sickle and cut a sugar variant in half. Even further away this was a world without any dawn, without fairness, without hope, and without the future. After the massacre, the mycoplasma sat at the foot of the mountain, mechanically chewing the cholesterol in its mouth. It had done this countless times, and would continue until it died. However, just as it was looking for its next target, something strange happened. At some point, a black dot suddenly appeared on the originally yellow sky. The black dot was very small at first, but in just 1,000th of a millisecond, it broke a huge hole. Like a torn piece of cloth, it expanded to the farthest distance of the field of vision. Before the mycoplasma could react, something like an anchor suddenly appeared from the hole and rushed towards a fragment floating in the air. In less than a moment, the anchor accurately hooked the fragment and hooked it away from this world at a faster speed than when it came. The mycoplasma, who had never seen such a situation, stared at the situation in front of him in amazement. Just as he was about to call his companions to inquire about the situation, he suddenly heard a sound like breaking through the air. He subconsciously raised his head and looked at the sky. At this moment, from the gap covering the sky, countless scorching C1 Galt-1 C1 decoys broke through the air. They came to this world with fire and justice. The pathogenic mycoplasma just made a strange cry of unknown meaning, and was smashed to pieces by the decoys that fell from the sky. In fact, it's not just it. At this moment, all the sins of this world are being settled by the punishment from the outside world. In less than a moment, this sinful world was covered in flames and came to an end. A few minutes later, in the macroscopic world, as a series of changes occurred in the microscopic field, the experimental cockroach that was put back into the ecological box suddenly spread its wings. With 2 flaps, it flew straight towards a male cockroach. Chapter 66 Li Wei's Little Thoughts. The average onset time of the first generation is 15 minutes, the average onset time of the second generation is 10 minutes, the death time is 1 hour, and the coverage rate within the range is 64.7% higher than that of the fourth generation. In the biomedical laboratory, Chu Sheng waved the experimental report in his hand and said to Su Yun with excitement, "Old Su, the fifth generation, the fifth generation. We really developed the fifth generation of imidacloprid. Whether it is efficiency, insecticide method or coverage rate, it can be called the most perfect generation product." Facing Chu Sheng and others who were excited, Su Yun's heart was not calm. After all, the significance of the birth of the fifth generation of imidacloprid was too great, no matter from which angle. However, the experience accumulated from long-term scientific research still made him suppress the fluctuations of his mood firmly in his heart. After a while, he took a deep breath and said, "Old Chu, fellow students, you have worked hard in the past few days. How about this? I will treat you tonight. Let's go to the Anhui Banquet." Anhui Banquet is a very famous and high-end Anhui cuisine restaurant in Luzhou. The per capita consumption of 1 yuan is about 800 to 900 yuan, which is much higher than the 300 to 400 yuan that Su Yun had planned. However, considering the efforts of the entire team in the research and development process, as well as the vast commercial prospects of the fifth generation imidacloprid, it is not a problem to raise the standard of the celebration banquet. At most, he can make up for this part of the money himself. Although Su Yun has long forgotten most of the memories of his previous life, he has received a lot of scholarships in recent years. In addition to the golden signboard of being the first in the junior class of the University of Science and Technology, the income of tutoring after school is also considerable. At present, he certainly does not have a lot of money, but it is not difficult to treat the research team to a meal. The research team can deduct 300 to 400 yuan from the funds, and Su Yun can actually make up for 4,000 yuan himself. Yao Hao, let's have a celebration banquet. Hearing that Su Yun decided to invite guests to 1 yuan, Tang Yiki was the first to cheer heartlessly, jumping with joy. This was her first time to join a formal project team, so naturally she didn't have so many problems to think about. However, Zhou Piao, Li Wei and others had more complicated expressions, or their attention was not on the celebration banquet. Li Wei hesitated for a few seconds and asked Su Yun, "Su Shen, now that the fifth generation has been successfully developed, can I ask which journal the research team plans to publish the paper in?" Su Yun glanced at him lightly, immediately understood the deep meaning of this sentence, and smiled. "The paper, I plan to submit it to Nucleic Acids Res." As soon as the voice fell, except for Chu Sheng who had already known the situation, Li Wei and others' eyes immediately widened. After being dazed for a few seconds, a strange light gradually emerged in Li Wei's eyes. Nucleic Acids Res, the journal published by Oxford University Press. Su Yun nodded. That's right. Hearing Su Yun's affirmation, Li Wei's heart suddenly trembled. In his original idea, there were actually two main purposes for joining Su Yun's research group. First, to get closer to a potential stock like Su Yun. With Su Yun's ability, he would be an important network of contacts in the future, whether in business or research. Second, he could get some project experience to make his files look better. However, with the development of the fifth generation product, the minds of the people in the research group gradually became floating. They knew that patents were not something that a tool could count on. At most, Chu Sheng had a chance in the entire project group, and it would be good for the rest of the people to get a red envelope. When Li Wei was a first-year graduate student, he participated in a professor's research group. After the results were converted into patents, the profit was as high as more than 4 million a year, but the assistants, received a red envelope of 1,888 at the end of the year. But in addition to patents, they had some chance to touch another thing, that is, the author of the paper. Obviously, the first author and the corresponding author did not need to be considered, and the second author must be Chu Sheng, but the remaining 3 authors were currently vacant. You know, the third author of an ordinary paper is actually of little value. It is basically the same as the passerby A, B, C, and D. Just telling you that there is such a person is enough, and it can't convert much actual value. But the development of the fifth generation imidacloprid is different. It can at least be published in a second zone C. If you can be a third author in such a paper, it is simply a big profit. Su Yun is preparing to submit a first zone paper. Under the premise that Li Wei and others have a solid foundation, this signature may even become a turning point in their lives. It is true that Li Wei has a good character, but good character does not mean that he is pure and unselfish. They are naturally willing to fight for things that can be fought for. If nothing unexpected happens, Su-Yoon's achievement will soon spread among the leadership and graduate students of the School of Life Sciences. By then, various people may come up to climb up the relationship, spend money, or even seduce. I have seen it with my own eyes, hoping to get a share of the third author. Seeing Li Wei and others with somewhat uneasy expressions, Su-Yoon did not keep them in suspense. After all, this was a plan he had arranged long ago. Xiao Li, you and Xiao Zhou will work harder later to organize the relevant data for me. When I defend the thesis, I will add everyone's name to the third author. Gulu, hearing this, Li Wei swallowed hard and his lips trembled a few times. Senior, are you really kidding? Of course not. Su-Yoon could understand Li Wei's mood at the moment, so he explained patiently, I plan to give everyone the signature of the third author from the beginning. If you don't believe me, you can ask Lao Chu, he can be your witness. Of course. The premise of everything is that the thesis can be successfully reviewed, otherwise Lao Chu will be a failure. Li Wei took the opportunity to cast his gaze on Chu Sheng, who nodded affirmatively. What Lao Su said is right, just do it with peace of mind. It's true that this guy has an African face, but his character is still okay, not black. After receiving the double affirmation from Su-Yoon and Chu Sheng, Li Wei's originally depressed expression suddenly changed. As if he had eaten a Snickers bar, he straightened his chest and said to Su-Yoon with full energy, Senior, don't worry. I will complete the task. Then he picked up the experimental report, turned around and asked others to do the summary statistics work. After Li Wei left, Chu Sheng looked at Su-Yoon. Old Su, are you really giving away your third work like this? What else? Su-Yoon casually picked up a book and waved it like a fan. Old Chu, I know what you want to say, but scientific research is not a business. I don't care what other research groups do. Anyway, I will definitely not use my results to exchange favors. Chu Sheng patted him on the shoulder and gave him a thumbs up. Tisk, you are ambitious. So what are you going to do next? Su-Yoon pondered for a moment and slowed down the frequency of inciting the book. Now that the R&D and indoor experiments are complete, it's time to consider practical issues. I plan to try it on campus first, and if there are no problems, I will prepare to publish a paper. Well, there's nothing wrong with this step. Hey, what book is that in your hand? Oh, this one, the new book by the great writer Mysterious Big Watermelon from Kidian, recasting the glory of the human race. There's a portal in the author's words. If you are interested, go and have a look, ? No, didn't you say you don't want to exchange favors? Yeah, scientific research doesn't involve favor exchanges, and writing novels doesn't include that. Chapter 67 Drug Trial Volunteers. After handing over the task of data summarization to Li Wei and others, Su-Yoon walked to the computer alone and opened a penguin group. This group was not the Hairline Protection Association where he had appeared before, but a small group called 21st Applied Physics Class 2. As a doctoral student, Su-Yoon became a teaching assistant for a sophomore class in response to relevant documents while studying for his degree. The guaranteed income for this teaching assistant position was originally 2,500 yuan per month. In 2017, it was raised to 2,750 in response to national requirements, which is equivalent to the salary of waiters in some small places. This part of the money will be paid together with a research assistant fee and scholarship, about 6,000 yuan a month, and the mathematics department can reach 8,000. If you are selected as an excellent teaching assistant, you can also be awarded 1,200 yuan in cash. Of course, compared with other domestic colleges and universities, the treatment of the University of Science and Technology is relatively higher. For example, the subsidy for a doctoral student at Jiangcheng University is only 1,835, and it is not paid for 2 months of summer vacation. The money is paid at the end of September every year. So there will be a situation where the money is paid in early June and the next payment is not until the end of September. There is a gap of more than 3 months in between, and you have to pay for accommodation. Many people can't stand it. So it's better to come to HKUST to take the doctoral exam. Let's return to the original place. The applied physics major taught by Su-Yoon belongs to the Department of Physics, which is the original Department of Technical Physics, one of the 4 departments of the School of Physics. There are 30 people in the Applied Physics Class 2, 29 boys and 1 girl, a standard monk class. The most amazing thing is that this group of idiots actually found the electronic information engineering next door for a social gathering when they were freshmen. More than 100 boys sat face to face stupidly. It is said that the scene was very tense at one time. When Soo-yoon opened the Penguin group, some daily chats were going on in the group. How Soo-yoon, I'm going to work part-time wearing doll costumes at the auto show tomorrow. Anyone going? The inflatable kind, 240 a day. A senior recommended it to me. Chen Xingao, at How Soo-yoon, brother How, count me in. Dong Nande, pass it on. Soo-yoon is going to be an inflatable doll. How Soo-yoon, at Fu Ming, is Mingze going? Fu Ming, no, I have to write. Lian Xianzi, sweating expression, oh my god, Mingze, you haven't given up writing yet? Writing novels is a dead end, don't you understand? Fu Ming, you don't understand. I have now realized something. You say tired. Who the hell isn't tired? But being able to sit in front of a computer and get tired is something that many people envy. I have decided to write until I die. I won't stop until I can't open my eyes every day. I have already risked my life. To be honest, I have nothing to lose. I'll die of exhaustion. It's better than dying of poverty. I'm tired of haggling over everything I buy. I want to rise. Lin Kong, how many words do you plan to write every day? Fu Ming, 2,000 words. Assistant teacher Soo-yoon, seeing Soo-yoon appear, the entire group suddenly became quiet. Then a list of emoticons flooded the screen. The content of the emoticon package was a panda head holding a sign, with the word Sushin photoshopped on it. I don't know who created this emoticon package, but it was quickly accepted by the class group as if it had a magical nature. Now it has become the standard support for Soo-yoon when he appears. Teaching assistant Soo-yoon, at, are the branch secretary and class monitor here. In less than a moment. Hearing Soo-yoon's tag, the other two group members who were attached as administrators popped up, and, I'm here, what's up, Mr. Soo, teaching assistant Soo-yoon, your names. Forget it, just asking, are there many cockroaches in your dormitory? As soon as the word was typed, a girl with a purple title of class flower jumped out of the group, Tao Kei-kwan, a lot, 7 exclamation marks, it can be seen how much hatred this person has for cockroaches. There is no way. As a top university in China, the teaching and research strength of USTC is needless to say. But in sharp contrast to these 2 points is the accommodation environment of USTC. The best dormitories in HKUST are currently concentrated in the central area, while the dormitories in the east area are uneven. Some dormitories were renovated in 2019, but some buildings are still luxurious configurations from the 1980s. For example, when boys were peeing, they found that their shoes were suddenly wet. When they were squatting, the sewer pipes suddenly made gurgling sounds, and when they entered the public bathhouse, they found that the shower head did not work for a long time, and they twisted it a few times and a stream of rusty water directly hit their faces. There are too many cases. In addition, HKUST is famous for its many animals on campus, such as pit vipers, mountain scorpions, wild boars, monkeys, etc. It is rumored that in the 1980s, brown bears even entered the campus. At that time, Tian Zigan, who was still a student, and his roommates smashed apples down from the 4th floor. Unfortunately, the brown bear is not Newton, and finally just ran away in shame. There are many species of organisms and a suitable environment, so it is not strange that cockroaches are rampant in HKUST. At the same time, due to the geographical location of Anhui Province, there are many kinds of cockroaches on the campus of the University of Science and Technology. In 2016, a giant cockroach of 9 centimeters long was even found. At this moment, in the class group, with the emergence of Tao K group, some group members who were originally lurking have also emerged one after another. Except for a few old perverts, most members answered Soo-yoon's question, and there was only one answer, a lot. Even though it is approaching winter now, a large number of cockroaches can still be seen everywhere in the dormitory building, which is indeed a big challenge for normal endurance. Of course, this is also related to the temperature of the dormitory and the eating habits of the students. Even if there is only one person in a dormitory who eats takeout for a long time, some superfood will inevitably be spilled, especially near the desk. Over time, the dormitory building has become a disaster area for cockroaches. Looking at the large amount of positive feedback, Soo-yoon smiled slightly and continued typing. It's like this, my biology research group has developed a new generation of cockroach medicine these days. and it is now completely finalized. Its effect is still quite good in the laboratory, but the actual combat performance needs to be supplemented. So I want to use the dormitory floor of our major to do an experiment. I wonder if everyone is willing to help. Su-yoon and the students of the second class of the applied physics have known each other for more than a year. Both sides get along well and have a good relationship. In addition, he often helps to classify some key points or send some seeds at the end of the semester, so Su-yoon's popularity and prestige in the class are still relatively high. Fu-ming, who had popped up earlier, said he was willing, and another group member copied and sent it out. The entire group was instantly flooded with +1s one by one. Seeing this, Su-yoon's heart was immediately settled. Just like an online writer who has received a large number of monthly votes, his hand speed also increased a bit, and he started typing on the keyboard. Okay, by the way, are Guohong and Lichen in school now? One of them is fine, unruly Chang Lichen, I'm here. Lao Yi is with his girlfriend, assistant teacher Su-yoon, then can you come and get it when it's convenient for you? I'm in the medical center building. You can't get in without the access code. When you get downstairs, tell me on WeChat and I'll send it down to you, unruly Chang Lichen. Oh, I see. I'll go now. Outside the computer screen, Su-yoon clapped his hands and said to Chu Sheng with a smile, nice, we have the volunteers. Chapter 68. Everything is ready, only East Wind is missing. In the laboratory. After discussing the handover matters, Su-yoon turned off the penguin group and began to prepare the glue bait for actual combat. About half an hour later, ding dong, accompanied by a vibration, a WeChat notification sounded. Su-yoon started to make a call on his mobile phone. The sender was Chang Lichen, the monitor of Applied Physics Class 2. He hurriedly replied wait a moment, then took the prepared small medicine box and got off the elevator. 5 minutes later, Su-yoon walked out of the main door of the medical center building. Su-shin. Here, as soon as he went out, a burly boy ran in front of him. The boy was about 1.85 meters tall and had a very reliable square face. From his sparse hairline, it can be seen that his grades must be good. This person is Chang Lichen, the current monitor of Applied Physics Class 2. He is also one of the top 3 students in the department and a scholarship winner, but he is still a long way from being a study god. Lichen is here. Thank you for your hard work. Su-yoon greeted the visitor familiarly and handed him a bottle of mineral water he brought out from the laboratory. Come, have a drink of water first. I'll tell you the specific operation steps. Chang Lichen took the mineral water, gulped down a big gulp, and pretended to listen. Su-yoon first took out a simple reagent similar to a syringe from the small box and waved it in front of Chang Lichen. What I have in my hand is a newly synthesized cockroach medicine. The specific ingredient is called imidacloprid, but you, a physicist, probably don't understand what this is. Anyway, just treat it as a special insecticide. Then he took out a piece of white test paper and squeezed a rice-sized glue bait on it. Look, watch, it's enough to squeeze out a small amount of cockroach medicine each time. It will be a waste if you squeeze too much. Small amount and multiple times are the key words. Chang Lichen nodded, wrote down the dosage, and asked, I see, but Gatsu, where should this thing be squeezed? Or anywhere? Su-yoon shook his head and said, you've hit the key point. Lichen, think carefully first. Have you ever seen some dry, non-sticky, fine and small like sand, and very dense brown spots in the dormitory? Chang Lichen was stunned when he heard the words. After thinking for a few seconds, his eyes suddenly lit up. Hey? Now that you mention it, it seems to be true. I saw quite a few in the corner of the washing machine in the dormitory, and occasionally on the desk. My roommate said it was rat feces. It is indeed feces, but it is not rat feces, but the excrement of cockroaches. As Su-yoon spoke, a trace of gloom flashed in his eyes again. In short, you should first apply the glue bait near the black spots, and you can also apply some in the corners of the wall. This is called fixed point sniping. Cockroach feces are not just the excrement of a cockroach. Cockroach feces do not exist alone, and they are randomly and densely distributed every time they are found. Translated into human language, it is a bunch of small black dots, which has a very typical dense effect. This is because the rectal pads of adult and nymph cockroaches can secrete a kind of aggregation pheromone, which is excreted from the body with cockroach feces. This pheromone will send a message to the surrounding cockroaches: people are stupid, eat a lot, safe, come quickly, and will also become food for small cockroaches. Cockroach feces usually appear in the shade of the bathroom, kitchen and balcony, which is also an excellent location for placing glue bait. After introducing the use of glue bait, Soo-yoon left some details. Lichen, go back and tell the students that when placing glue bait, try to cover the entire floor completely. Imidacloprid is an insecticide specifically for insects. It is harmless to mammals. Unless you swallow 20 glue baits in one breath, there will be no problem for the human body. In addition, I also added bittering agents to it, so even if stray cats and dogs run in and eat it by mistake, they will not be poisoned. Chang Lichen wrote down Soo-yoon's instructions one by one, then said goodbye to Soo-yoon and returned to the dormitory with a small box. The dormitory for the applied physics major is in Building 14 in the East District, next to the Donation Holy Land Pomegranate Garden, and very close to Susong Road, so the number of cockroaches is higher than that of other dormitory buildings. Before leaving the dormitory, Chang Lichen specifically instructed several dormitory heads that at least one person in each dormitory should wait for follow-up notifications. As a genuinely Liaodong man, Chang Lichen is as righteous and generous as most northeastern men. His character has been unanimously praised by everyone in the class in the past year and a half, and he has a very good relationship with people. Although he can attract a lot of followers, at least everyone will pay more attention to what he says. With a blessing of his charisma, when he returned to the 4th floor where Class 2 was located, most of the dormitories had been prepared according to his requirements. At this moment, even Ye Guohong, who had gone out with his girlfriend earlier, rushed back and waited for him at the entrance of the dormitory corridor. Seeing Chang Lichen appear, Ye Guohong took the initiative to greet him, his eyes paused on the white briefcase in his hand. Hey, Lao Chang, are you planning to change your career to become a technician? Ear cleaning or foot piercing? Where are the slippers? Get lost. Chang Lichen first made an international friendly gesture up to his gay friend, then his expression became serious and asked, Lao Yi, is everyone in every dormitory? Seeing that Chang Lichen was talking about business, Ye Guohong stopped joking and pointed to a closed dormitory 7 or 8 meters away. The 4 people in Itao's dormitory have all gone to work part-time. Apart from them, there is at least one person in each dormitory. Chang Lichen nodded slightly. It was the weekend now, and it was rare that only one dormitory was empty. Don't worry about one dormitory for now. Lao Yi, you organize it and call all the dormitory heads or dormitory representatives to me, and I will hand over the details to everyone. Ye Guohong is also Chang Lichen's old partner. Hearing this, he nodded heavily. Okay, I'll go find them now. 5 minutes later, Ye Guohong brought several dormitory heads to Chang Lichen's dormitory, but Chang Lichen's seat was empty. Old Chang, where are you? Soon, Chang Lichen's voice came from the balcony outside the dormitory. Here I am, old Yi, bring everyone over to see. Ye Guohong and several dormitory heads looked at each other and came to the balcony entrance one after another. At this time, Chang Lichen was squatting on the ground in an Asian squat posture, looking sideways. Looking at the entrance of the bathroom thoughtfully. Seeing this, Ye Guohong couldn't help but have a question mark on his face. Old Chang, what are you doing? Are you going to imitate old 8? Not at the same time, but in the same toilet. Get lost. Chang Lichen waved his hand at him unhappily. I'm looking at cockroach feces. Ye Guohong looked at him with a weird look. Cockroach feces? Your taste is even better than old 8's. This time, Chang Lichen gave him a bump with both hands, then called everyone forward and relayed what Soo-yoon told him. 10 minutes later, all kinds of details were handed over. Each dormitory head was assigned a tube of glue bait syringe and went back to the dormitory to lay glue bait. Chang Lichen took out 2 larger and thicker syringes and handed one to Ye Guohong. Old Yi, take this thing, let's go and wipe the tracks in the corridor and try to finish it all within half an hour. Although this thing may not be useful, Assistant Professor Su has helped us a lot. Let's get rid of the people in advance, and let fate take care of the rest. Ye Guohong nodded, took the syringe, and followed Chang Lichen out to put glue bait. 40 minutes passed. Inside and outside the dormitory on the entire floor, all the hidden corners where cockroaches left traces were filled with glue bait. Everything is ready, only the east wind is missing. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69, Cockroach Fly's First Sex. After laying the glue bait, Chang Lichen and Ye Guohong temporarily separated and returned to their dormitories. After all, Su Yun's task was complicated, but it was also simple. The whole class was so concerned, mainly to repay Su Yun for taking care of everyone. When Chang Lichen returned to the dormitory, Fu Ming, who was still in the dormitory today, was typing away. Fu Ming, 21 years old, 180 centimeters tall and 180 kilograms in weight, is a student at the University of Science and Technology and an online novel enthusiast. His pen name is Naked Hole is Wrong, and Luoxa makes tea. However, unlike Su Yun, Fu Ming entered the industry at a younger age than Su Yun, and his talent is much better than Su Yun. The first book was a fine product, and the second book had a first order of nearly 10,000. He is an absolutely talented writer. But this one has a shortcoming, which is that he is too slow. For example, his second book had a first order of 8,000 and a follow-up order of more than 7,000. If it were other authors, they would start with 10,000 orders and earn 70,000 to 80,000 a month. As a result, this pigeon wrote 4,000 words every day without fail, and occasionally updated alone or even took leave. After a period of time, the subscription did not increase but decreased, and the number of followers was almost cut in half. But Fu Ming still didn't care. The number of words he boasted about in the group every day was several times more than the number of words he updated. "Old Fu, are you in the group again?" After returning to the dormitory, Chang Lichen teased Fu Ming maturely. After being roommates with Fu Ming for more than a year, he had more or less learned about online novels. If it weren't for his poor writing skills, he would even want to open a writer account to write novels. Fu Ming didn't care about Chang Lichen's teasing. While quickly sending an emoticon package, he said to Chang Lichen, "Hey, squad leader, have you applied the cockroach medicine?" "Yes, it's all applied." Chang Lichen nodded, picked up the water cup and prepared to get some water under the water dispenser, but before pressing the switch, he subconsciously lowered his head and carefully checked around the water dispenser. Fu Ming looked at him blankly and asked, "Squad leader, what are you doing?" "Checking for cockroach feces." Chang Lichen made sure there were no traces of cockroach feces around, and then he filled a large glass of water with confidence and drank it all. "I'm telling you, Lao Fu, you didn't see the corners around the trash can. Just now, Lao Yana opened the plastic bag, and there were dense black spots behind it. It scared me so much that I got goosebumps. Now I want to check if there are any black spots when I see something. It's too scary." Chang Lichen shook his head as he spoke, looking frightened. There is an open space in the middle of the floor where Yingwu Class 2 is located. It is about 10 square meters in size, with 3 or 4 large blue trash cans and trash bags placed on it, which are used to place the dormitory garbage on the entire floor. Therefore, this area is also the place where cockroaches are most infested, and naturally there are more excrement left by cockroaches. Judging from Chang Lichen's expression at this time, it is obviously not a very good area. Fu Ming had no desire to inquire further, but just asked curiously, "Squad leader, do you think the cockroach medicine developed by Su Xin and his team will be useful?" Chang Lichen hesitated for a moment after hearing this, and said with pursed lips, "It's hard to say. If it's something about physics, I can still express my opinion. As for biology, I hope it will be useful anyway." His words were rather euphemistic. In fact, he had already searched for relevant knowledge about imidacloprid on the way back to the dormitory. According to the encyclopedia, this is a type of insecticide that was launched more than 30 years ago. It is actually a bit outdated now, and many pests have developed resistance to it. Just like fishing, these days the stupid fish have been caught by people, and the remaining fish are very smart. Therefore, Su Yun's so-called update and iteration are mostly just polite words, and the efficacy of the medicine is probably just so-so. When I woke up the next day, I could see 7 or 8 corpses, which was the limit. But Chang Lichen was not the kind of person who is particularly talkative, so he simply expressed his thoughts and did not express too much pessimism. Seeing this, Fu Ming stopped talking and continued to chat. "As for typing, haha, if it wasn't for the last 3 hours, who'd type? I didn't say that, please go find Luo Zugu." Then a few hours later, most of the students in Chang Lichen's dormitory, or Yingwu Class 2's dormitory, returned to the dormitory one after another. Some dormitories also talked about the cockroach medicine that Su Yun handed over, while some dormitories didn't even have a topic. Just like that, night fell. Many people often encounter a roommate when they are studying in college dormitories. When others take a nap, he plays Dawang loudly, and when others go to bed at night, he plays games all night. The keyboard he uses is still a Blue Axis. However, as a single dog without a girlfriend but very gentle, Fu Ming naturally would not do such a thing that would ruin his character. In order not to disturb his roommates, he deliberately spent more than 2,000 yuan to buy a pair of electrostatic capacitor keyboards. At this time, Fu Ming was working overtime to rush today's manuscript. The expression on his face was a little nervous, and there was no trace of the joy he had when he was idle in the group before. Just now, he accidentally idled in the group for a while, and when he came to his senses, it was already 9:30 in the evening. His speed is about 1,300 words per hour. It is not an easy task to complete a 4,000-word full attendance chapter in 2.5 hours. What's more terrible is that it is the end of the month, and this pigeon has used up all the leave slips. According to the writing terms of the End Novel Network, if the full attendance requirement is still not met after deducting the leave slips, the full attendance bonus for that month will be stopped. This part of the full attendance bonus is in the mouth of the 7 groups of veteran drivers, Yan Huaxun, which can go to Dabaojin 3 times. Now the time has come to 11:40 at night, and Fu Ming still has more than 600 words left. Every minute and every second can be called the speed of life and death. While Fu Ming was desperately typing, he suddenly heard a rustling sound in his ears. At first Fu Ming thought it was the friction between his roommate and the quilt when he was lying on the bed, but as he kept on typing, he gradually felt something was wrong. The sound was coming from outside the dormitory, and how should I put it? It was a bit like the sound of crickets he heard in the village when he was a child, the sound produced by a large number of insects flapping their wings. However, considering the limited time, Fu Ming forced himself to ignore the source of the loud noise, and lowered his head to continue writing today's chapter. Brother, you may not know that our gang has 2 tokens, which are handed over to the helmsman of the southern branch and the helmsman of the northern branch for safekeeping. When the 2 tokens are merged, they will release unparalleled power, enough to solve any problem at hand. Really? Any problem at hand? Yes, any problem. Excuse me, what are your gang tokens made of? Dragon balls? No, it's uranium-235. However, just when Fu Ming finally got into the state, a huge exclamation suddenly came from outside the dormitory. Fuck, oh my god, husband, come and see. The loud sound instantly resounded throughout the 4th floor, waking up many people who had fallen asleep. Before Fu Ming could say anything, another boy who was woken up by the noise in the bed next to him spoke first. Fuck, what the hell are those people outside doing in the middle of the night? Did DG win the championship again, or did LGD not ban the mammoth again? Then the hot-tempered boy got out of bed, walked to the door in his dinosaur costume pajamas, pulled it hard, and shouted, "What the hell are you making?" The next second, the hot-tempered boy slammed the door shut, and a strange and meaningless cry came out of his throat. Cockroaches, so many cockroaches. Cockroaches marching like ants in a line. From 401 to the end, it's all cockroaches. Chapter 70, Cockroach Flies First Sex. It was already late at night, and most dormitories had already gone to bed or turned off the lights. Therefore, the hot-tempered boy's shrill voice was very penetrating in the dark, and several dormitories in the next building turned on their lights. The surrounding alumni were like this, not to mention the roommates in the same dormitory. With the hot-tempered boy's roar, Chang Lichen and another roommate were completely awakened. Chang Lichen rubbed his eyes, yawned and asked, "Leon, what's wrong with you? What cockroaches are walking on the aisle?" Chang Lichen, who only heard 3 or 4 points of Leon's words, paused slightly and said in an instant, "Oh, I see, it's Godsu's cockroach medicine that worked, right? Are there any cockroaches dead? Look at your courage, a little cockroach scared you like this. You are still a man from Shandong. Are you worthy of your ancestors' Liangshan heroes?" Upon hearing this, Leon's face showed a somewhat weird expression. "Squad leader, don't mention water margin. Even if you ask Sun Wukong from Journey to the West to come, there will be no way. Do you know what's going on outside?" Without waiting for Chang Lichen to reply, Leon gestured with his hands to show width, and pointed to the corner of the dormitory. The 3-meter-wide corridor is full of cockroaches on both sides near the wall. From 401 to at least 420, they are lined up like marching ants. Just imagine what this scene is. Chang Lichen was stunned at first, and subconsciously wanted to refute. After all, this scene was too challenging. That's not right. Let me ask you, there is no gap at the bottom when the door of our dormitory is closed. I can understand that cockroaches can't get in. But what about the few seconds when you open the door? Don't these things squeeze into any gap? If the edge of the corridor is full of cockroaches as you said, then more than a dozen of them must have run in during this period of time. Leon opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but soon found that he really couldn't explain Chang Lichen's doubts, so he could only stammer, but they are indeed cockroaches, at least thousands or tens of thousands. Squad leader, what Lalei said seems to be true. Just when Chang Lichen wanted to say something, Fu Ming on the side suddenly interrupted. He raised his mobile phone, and the main interface was the professional group. Look at your phone, everyone in the group is talking about this. Chang Lichen heard this and quickly took out his phone. Just as Fu Ming said, at this moment, this small professional group of only a few dozen people was refreshing the screen at a very high frequency. There were also a few video clips flashing, and almost every word was about cockroaches. Chen Xingao, fuck, what the hell is going on outside? Biohazard, Hu Qing, don't open the door, you will face the consequences if you open it. Go Yang, I'm so stupid. We went to bed late and left the door open. The cockroaches ran away for 5 minutes before I realized something was wrong. Chen Xingao, are you as miserable as me? I just went out to take out the trash, but the light at the door was broken. I took a few steps before I realized something was wrong. Do you know how it feels to have thousands of cockroaches crawling over my slippers? Now my roommates have forced me to scrub my feet with detergent. TT. As he was talking, Chen Xingao suddenly posted a video. This was taken when I returned to the dormitory. If you want to believe it, take a look. If you don't want to believe it, you are welcome to open the door and verify it yourself. Jiang Bigao, so why did you bother to take a video? Chen Xingao, complex mood emoji. It was already dirty at that time. It didn't matter. Cyrillic letter deck. Chang Lichen first sent out an ellipsis, and then curiously clicked on Chen Xingao's video. The video content is very short, less than 10 seconds, but the picture is quite explosive. The height of the mobile phone was placed near the height of an adult man's neck. Although there was a street lamp that caused a dim view due to malfunction, it can be seen with the help of farther lights that at this time, there are dense cockroaches constantly rushing out of the stairs, rushing towards the garbage dump in the middle of the floor like crazy. The route of these cockroaches is only in the corners or on the ground. Even if they pass by some dormitories with open doors, they don't turn to go in. Of course, not all cockroaches are rushing to the garbage dump. Some of the cockroaches that ran out of the dormitories with open doors may have been poisoned by the cockroach medicine in the dormitories, leading many of their kind to do shameful things on the road. As the saying goes, when there are more than 1,000 soldiers, there is no edge. When there are more than 10,000 soldiers, there is no edge. When there are more than 10,000 people, there is no limit. This proverb can also be applied to cockroaches at this time, so it is difficult to estimate how many cockroaches there are just by watching the video. With the video evidence in front of him, combined with the monkey-like weird screams outside, Chang Lichen's heart has already believed 98%. The remaining 2 points are not so much disbelief as the rigor of science students. After all, they haven't seen it with their own eyes. While Chang Lichen was watching the video, Fu Ming suddenly glimpsed something. He let out a light exclamation, walked quickly to the balcony entrance, and turned on the balcony light. Oh my god, squad leader, look at the balcony, Chang Lichen exclaimed and looked over. At this moment, there were more than 10 cockroaches gathered on the ground of the dormitory balcony, layer upon layer, as if they were doing something like stacking arhats. Looking at the cockroaches with their wings raised high, which were obviously in heat, Chang Lichen suddenly understood some of what Su Yun had said. Close the doors and windows of the balcony before going to bed, put away clothes that can be put away in advance, and try to apply the glue bait on the cockroach feces near the balcony, not in the dormitory. By the way, Master Su, after Su Yun's name popped up in his mind, Chang Lichen remembered this mastermind. He didn't care that it was too late, and immediately called Su Yun. After a while, Su Yun's voice came from the microphone. Hello, Lichen? Why aren't you sleeping so late? It's me, Master Su. What are you doing? Writing a paper. What's the matter? It's like this. The cockroach medicine you gave me seems to be effective. Oh, this is a good thing. You will probably see a lot of cockroach corpses when you wake up after a good sleep. Gurgle. Chang Lichen swallowed hard and said, God Su, it seems that there is no need to wake up. Now, let me tell you, the whole corridor is full of cockroaches. There are at least several thousand if not tens of thousands. Hearing this, Su Yun, who was still working on his paper, was stunned and put down his pen and said, "What do you mean?" "It means the entire corridor, starting from the entrance of the stairs. The cockroaches are marching in a line like ants." At the desk, Soo-yoon's eyes widened as he listened. "Wait, let me ask you, how much glue bait did you put?" Chang Lichin was silent for a few seconds. "God, Soo, you only told me the amount to use on the balcony of the dormitory, and didn't mention how much to apply to the public area." At that time, Lao Yu saw the black cockroach feces in the trash can, the number of which was unknown how many times that of the dormitory, so he thought that the rice-sized ones might not be enough, and we saw in the encyclopedia that the lethality of the insect forest seemed to have drug resistance, so we squeezed a little more. Listening to Chang Lichin's intermittent tone, Soo-yoon suddenly had a bad premonition in his heart. Considering that the journey from the East District dormitory was troublesome, and the actual experiment might need to be repeated many times and in multiple locations, Soo-yoon deliberately gave Chang Lichin some more glue bait. After all, this thing is not poisonous enough to kill people and can't be sold for money, and it is not difficult to store. At that time, I gave you 2 large 150 milliliter syringes. How much did you two use? Well, I smeared it all on, painted half of the wall. Fuck. While Soo-yoon was on the phone with Chang Lichin, Fu Ming on the side looked at the comments in the comment area that kept popping up, and couldn't help but feel distressed. "It's really not my fault for what happened today." As he read it, his eyes suddenly lit up. He quickly pulled up the group chat, found the video that Chen Xingyu had taken before and saved it, and sent it out through the Easter egg chapter function of Kidian novel. "You may not believe it when I tell you, I was scared by cockroaches today." Chapter 71 Further exacerbation of the situation. Generally speaking, there are usually 2 forms of use of cyprodenol, intermediate powder and glue bait. Among them, the intermediate powder is mostly used in the agricultural field, with large quantity and wide coverage, but the insecticidal efficiency per unit volume is relatively limited. After all, insecticidal efficiency and cost are directly linked. The 4 words agricultural field actually refer to cultivated land or fruit forests, ranging from 2 or 3 acres to hundreds or thousands of acres. If farmers really buy the kind of high-efficiency insecticide, their income is not enough to pay for spraying. In addition to the intermediate powder, most of the cyprodenol commonly used in the field of life are glue baits, that is, high-specification and high-concentration polymer insecticides. For example, Bayer's Baymouth, in theory, 0.2 grams can kill more than 50 cockroaches. The 3rd-generation cyprodenol is still like this, not to mention the 5th-generation cyprodenol developed by Soo-yoon and others. 150 milliliters of water is 150 grams. The density of the 5th-generation cypermethrin glue bait is much greater than that of water. The glue bait contained in 2 150 milliliter syringes is about 700 grams in total, which is 7 tails per tube. You can simply imagine what it means to apply this amount of glue bait to the wall. More importantly, since the geographical location of the University of Science and Technology is in the urban area of Luzhou, the drainage facilities of the entire campus must be distributed from the inside to the outside. Among them, Building 14, located on the edge of the East District, is a large outlet node that gathers multiple sewage pipes on campus. The number of cockroaches around it is far more than that in other areas. Therefore, the severity of the whole situation is far greater than what Chang Lichin saw in the dormitory. When Soo-yoon rushed to Building 14, the entire dormitory was already surrounded by a large number of onlookers who came from nearby dormitories, and they tacitly maintained an effective distance of 30 to 40 meters from Building 14. "Please make way. I'm Yingwu's assistant." "Thank you." Soo-yoon struggled to get out of the crowd. He saw several dormitory managers and patrol officers standing in the middle of the venue, that is, in the open space outside the dormitory building. Through the strong flashlights in their hands, he could vaguely see an extremely scary scene. Students who have lived in dormitories should know this. Each dormitory building usually has 3 to 5 white sewer pipes with a diameter of about 15 centimeters on the outside, depending on the scale of the building. Most of them are located between the walls where 2 dormitories meet. At this moment, countless cockroaches are slowly climbing up along the outer walls of several sewer pipes. Then turn left at the edge of the 3rd floor and climb into the 4th floor through a window at the corner of the stairs. The rest simply poured in from the gate on the 1st floor and rushed to the 4th floor. Of course, if there is an in, there must be an out. For example, some cockroaches have been poisoned and have entered an excited state, with their wings spread high, and they flew out of the window, followed by a large group of cockroaches. Under the night sky, the crowd watching outside seemed to be Cao's army, which was stopped by the cockroaches at Dangayang Bridge. Mixed in this scary scene are the closed doors and windows of the dormitories, and the strange cries that sounded from time to time. Seeing this situation, even the night patrol team of the University of Science and Technology, who have more than 10 years of security experience, looked at each other, stood far away with flashlights, and looked confused and at a loss. The dormitory manager at the side was sharp-eyed. When she saw Su-yoon, who had finally managed to get out of the crowd, she immediately looked overjoyed. "Assistant Professor Su, you are here too. Come and see what's going on." Su-yoon walked to the side of the group with a wry smile on his face, and looked up at the densely packed cockroaches. "Aunt Liu, how long has this situation lasted?" Aunt Liu was a middle-aged woman with a bloated figure. She and her husband had been dormitory managers for more than 10 years. She was puzzled and scared when she heard it. "I don't know either. I was cooking for the guys in 203 at that time. I don't know where I heard a strange cry, and then I saw a bunch of cockroaches running upstairs. It was a scene." Open flames are prohibited in USTC dormitories, so some dormitory managers will prepare some side dishes such as chicken offal on weekdays. If students want to drink beer in the dormitory on weekends, they can order 1 or 2 plates at a very affordable price, which can be regarded as a small extra income for the dormitory managers. Sister Liu was doing her private work. When she realized something was wrong, she quickly turned off the stove and ran out with her husband. Su-yoon couldn't help but sigh when she heard this. "Sister Liu, have you contacted the school leaders?" "I just called several counselors and the leaders of the branch. Dean Tian is on his way." "Dean Tian? Hasn't he rested yet?" "No, he said he was doing some experiment. When he heard the news, he told me that he would be at the scene immediately and said there was no need to call the fire department." Su-yoon felt relieved when he heard this. Looking at the entire University of Science and Technology, apart from Chu Xing and several members of the research team, the only person who could guess the inside story in a short time, apart from Su-yoon himself, was Tian Liangwei. If it were other school leaders or even school leaders, there was no guarantee that something big would happen. Those with a more stable mentality might be able to deal with it calmly. If they encounter some more emotional leaders, they might even imagine earthquakes or even demonization. After all, most schools are built on cemeteries, and many school leaders are actually very superstitious. Basically, every school's top 10 campus legends have something to do with ghosts. Just like that, after about 20 minutes, Tian Liangwei finally rushed to the scene with his assistant. As soon as he separated the crowd and walked out of the door, Tian Liangwei's scalp tingled. Looking at the densely packed cockroaches, his hometown dialect popped up. "Fuck, so many cockroaches? Xiao Su, what did you do?" Su-yoon, who had been waiting here for a long time, sighed softly and described the whole process in detail. Between the lines, he tried to take as much responsibility as possible on himself. "That's about it. Director Don, this is mainly my fault. I didn't explain the dosage issue to Li Cheng and the others." Tian Liangwei frowned at the beginning, but as he listened, the expression on his face gradually began to become a little strange. "This can't be blamed entirely on you. After all, it's a problem of information asymmetry. Those 2 idiots probably searched the internet for cypermethrin for agricultural use and thought that the effect you gave them was just so-so. Forget it, let's not talk about this for now. Xiao Su, do you have any solution now?" Su-yoon was silent for a while and said, "Director Don, the first thing we need to do is to stabilize emotions. I have just contacted several physics department codders in the dormitory building. After group-to-group and person-to-person notifications, the doors and windows of each dormitory have been closed. Now the students in the dormitory are mainly experiencing greater emotional fluctuations, while others are not affected much, so we need to work harder to appease them." After he finished speaking, he paused and continued, "As for the follow-up suggestions, my opinion is, wait. Su-yoon nodded and said, "After all, 2 tubes of glubate are obviously excessive in terms of dosage, but from the perspective of coverage area, it's just that. If nothing unexpected happens, it should have spread to the 3rd generation of receptors by now, and it will almost stop in 2 rounds. So instead of intervening manually, it is better to just wait on the sidelines and spray some disinfectants around to prevent cockroaches from escaping. But in this way, the students in the dormitory may have to do psychological counseling, or everyone can add 0.2 GPA at the end of the semester? I guarantee that there will be nothing wrong with them tomorrow. Tian Langwei's mouth twitched a few times. You caused this yourself, and you want the school to make up the GPA. Then he sighed. We'll talk about compensation later. I'll handle it as you say. I'll explain it to the college and the school. My goodness, I thought it was a biochemical crisis at first. While Su Yun and others were talking, the internet gradually became lively. Chapter 72 Fermentation. As an online writer who often posts, although Fu Ming updates a relatively limited number of words every day, it must be said that his books are still quite good. Otherwise, there wouldn't be 2 consecutive masterpieces, and the second book wouldn't have received nearly 10,000 first orders. Haven't you seen how many authors have been in the industry for 5 or 6 years, and their best results are only 1 or 2,000 orders? The reason for Fu Ming's decline in subscriptions is not because of the collapse of the plot, but because he updates less, and most readers just keep reading. Therefore, the number of Fu Ming's reader fan group has always been maintained at around 1,000, and it is quite lively. Among the daily reserved programs, in addition to posting pictures, the rest is naturally charged for updates. Let go of that female monkey, at Unlucky Author. Ku, are you still updating the second chapter today? Barbie Ruth on the Run Snapdragon. It's almost 12 o'clock. I definitely won't update. Pigeons are like that. Spreading hands emoji. A anime little angel, at Unlucky Author. Why don't you learn from the old guy sitting on a chick next door? Look at his typing speed, and that American comic writer Mi Yijun, who writes 30,000 words a day as a part-timer. Just as everyone in the group was arguing with pigeons, an administrator suddenly popped up. The little princess of the Yakumo family. Hurry up and read the latest chapter. My god, it's scary. Although the current time is close to midnight, there are still many immortal cultivators in the group, and they all popped up when they heard this. God knows why these people can survive by staying up all night in the group as if they don't have to go to work. Zian Wei classmate, Yakumo Nyang, what happened? Daozu Wufan. I took a look, there is no update. The little princess of the Yakumo family, at Daozu Wufan. Look at the Easter egg chapter. With the administrator Yakumo Nyang's tag, the entire QQ group suddenly became quiet. After all, no matter how much the group members like to talk nonsense, the prerequisite for joining the group is that they are genuine readers, and they like and subscribe to Fu Ming's books before joining the group. Therefore, except for the lurkers, after hearing Yakumo Nyang's words, most people subconsciously opened the novel client. However, this silence only lasted for less than half a minute, and the entire reader group was boiling violently. Question marks appeared one after another on the screen, and there were also a lot of at Fu Ming group messages in between. Taoist ancestor Wu Fan, WDNMD. Is this Photoshop or a real video? Zuwanidin, I'm so scared. What the hell is this? Cockroaches. After a while, Fu Ming popped up. It's a real story. The location is USTC, Building 14. Let me show you the howling of the whole building. Video. Compared to the Easter egg chapter, the video shot by Fu Ming's classmate Chen Xingyu, the second video is not as explosive. But while the picture is smooth, the time and content are much richer than the first one. Fu Ming first filmed the environment in the dormitory for a few seconds, then zoomed in and leaned against the door. At this time, he could clearly hear the strange cries of many classmates on the same floor. Then he walked to the balcony and filmed the dozen or so cockroaches that were still stacked up. At the edge of the lens, he could see the light of many mobile phones or flashlights below. Those were alumni from some surrounding dormitory buildings who came to eat melons, as well as the excited roars outside. At the end of the video, Fu Ming walked back to his seat and filmed the authors backstage to show that it was not a stolen video. Then he continued to type. Actually, I wanted to go to the balcony to shoot at first, but my roommate stopped me. I thought that if I insisted, I would either be stabbed or beaten, so I gave up. So just bear with it. I really don't plan to go to the bathroom today, TT. As Fu Ming released this content, the group suddenly became lively. As we all know, forwarding messages is a common operation in group chats nowadays, and many people have even developed the habit of forwarding messages. Often, someone will post a chat record in the group, and when you open it, it will either be a pornographic picture or news that can be eaten. Some of them are true and some are false, and many messages have become popular because of this. In fact, most of these messages have promoters behind them. They will post them in many groups or many accounts together to spread a piece of news. For example, At the bottom of many forwarded messages, you can see the group of people who want to join the group. After entering, you will find that the group is muted. If you forward 2 melons, 4 or 5 advertisements will be displayed. It is a classic way to eat from both ends. Therefore, under normal circumstances, most messages actually go through a survivor bias process from the initial release to the release of the circle. However, in addition to this, if some messages are particularly interesting and have relatively more sources of dissemination, then it is also possible to produce the effect of going out of the circle. One of the more representative examples is the recent incident in which the author was hacked and the article was changed. At that time, the relevant topic directly rushed to the hot search. Perhaps there may be some behind-the-scenes promoters during the hot search period, but in the initial stage, it was indeed forwarded by netizens. The circle. And coincidentally, this Easter egg chapter of Fu Ming also happens to have the above characteristics. Even from the perspective of the source of dissemination, his penguin group with a capacity of thousands of living people and hundreds of people is much higher than the base of the original author. For example, Yuan Yin at this moment. Yuan Yin, female, a student of a certain major at Jingmen University, is one of the few female fans of Fu Ming. In addition to reading novels, she is also a small up master on Bilibili, and from time to time she makes some videos to complain about and comment on anime. However, unlike those popular up masters, Yuan Yin has been a comment up master for more than 2 years, but in the end, the number of fans is only more than 3,000, and the number of video playbacks is between 500 to 1,000. Although the number of 3,000 seems to be large, on video websites, the value of 3,000 is probably not even enough for 300. According to the creation incentives of Bilibili, Yuan Yin can earn about 40 yuan a month. However, this girl did not extinguish her passion for creation. She still updates videos tirelessly and gradually accumulates a fan group of more than 60 people. After seeing the 2 videos in Fu Ming's group, Yuan Yin was scared and got goosebumps. And she also transferred the 2 videos to the group. The 2 touching videos I just saw are so tear-jerking. In less than a moment, a string of ellipses appeared in the group. Why soon 1, Yin, Yin, Qijian Shuang. It's really tearful. Everyone who hasn't watched it should watch it now. While the group members were swarming to attack Yuan Yin, several people forwarded the 2 videos to other groups. At the same time, there were quite a few book friends in Fu Ming's group who did the same thing as Yuan Yin, and directly selected multiple forwardings. There was no way. This video was too embarrassing. Some of them had relatively high social or online status, while others were mediocre. Under this kind of radial forwarding, Fu Ming's chat records quickly spread. It's not that no one raised objections to the synthesized video during this period. In fact, there were quite a few people who had this idea, and the proportion might even be no less than 50% or 60%. But this level of synthesis has far exceeded the scope of being fake at first glance, so many people, even if they don't believe it's true, still click to forward it. That's it. It was a little after 3 in the morning. A topic suddenly appeared on the hot search list, and the popularity continued to rise. Cockroach. Chapter 73, Beautiful Scenery. What? It's trending. Hearing the report from the person in charge of the publicity portal, Tian Liangwei, who was directing related matters on the scene, frowned. It's only been a short time, and it's already hot enough to be trending in the middle of the night. Although Tian Liangwei is over 60 years old, as a college leader, he is more or less familiar with internet matters. If there were videos or pictures spread out, he wouldn't be too surprised. After all, there were so many people at the scene, and it was normal to take a photo or record a video. But if a picture or video wants to be transformed from information to news, the base of dissemination here is very large. If it was during the day, it might be possible, but in the second half of the night, it would naturally accumulate relevant heat by relying on scattered fragments. To be honest, the probability is really not high. Facing Tian Liangwei's questioning, the person in charge of the publicity port smiled helplessly. Dean Don, it's like this. After confirmation by our technical department, it was found that the source of the information came from a student in Building 14. His name is Fu Ming, an online writer with a relatively large fan base on the platform. With the forwarding of those fans, the news directly skipped the initial fragment accumulation stage and spread through multiple channels from the beginning. And at the end of the video, in order to prove that he did not steal the online material, he also deliberately filmed his own writer's backstage screen, and ended up cutting in the textbooks and one card pass of the University of Science and Technology. Netizens traced it back to the post bar, and it happened that there were some students who were watching the excitement in the post bar who were posting to discuss this matter, but their spread was not so wide. When the two groups met, the matter was completely hammered to death. Then the person in charge paused and tentatively said, "Dean Gon, should we lock the public opinion end first? The post bar is very simple. The owner is a teacher. Just raise the posting level. As for the hot search, it may be a bit troublesome, but it is estimated that an hour will be no different." Before he could finish, Tian Liangwei waved his hand and interrupted him. No, forget about controlling comments. There is nothing shameful about this kind of thing. If you control comments, people will feel guilty. Some things will turn bad just like that. Let's do this. You will be responsible for the public opinion portal yourself. Ignore the comments of normal discussions, and don't hold the student who first broke the news accountable. However, if you see any remarks that take the opportunity to discredit USTC and let the rhythm, deal with it first. There may be some old acquaintances from across the sea behind it. Tian Liangwei's words were somewhat meaningful. After all, some things have happened more than once or twice. Although USTC is not as good as Tsinghua, Peking University, Jiaotong and Fudan University in ranking, due to the problem of positioning background, USTC, University of Science and Technology of China and Harbin Institute of Technology are often attacked by some malicious people in public opinion. Sometimes, the frequency of attacks is even higher than that of Tsinghua, Peking University, Jiaotong and Fudan University. Now that USTC has such an incident, most of the discussions may not be malicious. But there will inevitably be some people who want to fish in troubled waters. After receiving Tian Liangwei's instructions, the person in charge of the public opinion side immediately accepted the order. Understood, I'll do it right away. After taking the person in charge away, Tian Liangwei turned and looked at the dormitory building. He was about to say it's a troubled time with a deep look in his eyes, but suddenly he saw the dense cockroaches on the water pipes, and he was shocked. Fuck, I'm afraid of cockroaches. Considering that Tian Liangwei is already in his 60s, the temperature difference between day and night is relatively large in the season, and it is easy to catch a cold outside. Therefore, under the persuasion of several accompanying leaders, Tian Liangwei returned to his residence first. Su Yun and several security personnel stayed at the scene and took the night shift. As for the students in the entire dormitory building, a team of fully dressed security personnel entered an hour and a half ago, put on protective clothing for each person, and took them out of the dormitory and placed them separately. After all, although the cockroaches cannot enter the dormitory, the viruses carried by so many cockroaches are a potential hidden danger, and the smell produced by gathering together is also quite unpleasant. Staying in this environment for a few minutes or even an hour might not be a problem, but if it lasts a whole night, something might happen. Just like that. An hour passed in a flash. As time went by, the number of cockroaches outside the dormitory wall was visibly reduced. Some cockroach corpses gradually appeared on the ground outside the building, and the farthest one even fell 200 meters away. At the same time, the whole building number 14 also faintly exuded a not-so-pleasant smell, which was a mixture of cockroach corpses and excrement. During this period, Su Yun had been paying attention to Weibo and Tigba, or to be more precise, that topic. The current Weibo popularity of the topic has jumped to the 10th place, second only to the old cow at the beginning. If nothing unexpected happens, when the sky gets light, this topic will most likely jump to the top 6. After all, the content is too curious. As for whether it can be higher, it depends on whether there will be any big melons in the entertainment industry tomorrow. Then another hour passed. At this time, the effect of the glue bait has begun to exert its strength for a key generation. Most of the cockroaches outside fell to the ground due to exhaustion. About 30% of them were completely dead, and the remaining 70% were still struggling. Half an hour later, at 5:30, except for a few very tenacious ones on the ground, 99% of the cockroaches had completely lost their vitality. At the same time, Tian Liangwei, who had just rested for a few hours, also returned to the scene. The hot search topic broke through the 2nd place and came to the 8th. Xiao Su, after arriving at the scene, Tian Liangwei glanced at the dormitory building and said to Su Yun, "Is it about time now?" Su Yun nodded. "It's almost time." Tian Liangwei nodded slightly and looked at someone next to him. "Director Guan, Thank you for your help. Director Guan mentioned by Tian Liangwei is the head of the security department of the University of Science and Technology. He is also a retired Special Forces soldier and the company commander of the school's reserve company. He is tall and big, with a square face, and looks very reliable at first glance. The security system of the University of Science and Technology has repeatedly drilled for a series of special situations such as septic tank explosions. Therefore, among the many modules within the University of Science and Technology, the security department is undoubtedly the most suitable candidate at present. More than 10 minutes later, a 20-person chemical defense team was formed, and Su Yun accompanied them as a consultant to atone for his sins. Then, under the leadership of Director Guan, the group steadily moved towards Building 14. At this time, the sky was only dim, so some scenes would only appear clear when approaching the dormitory building. The most conspicuous of them were undoubtedly the 4 originally white sewer pipes. The part of the pipe above the 4th floor could still be barely seen as white, but the area below the 4th floor was stained with a large amount of cockroach excrement. From a distance, the water pipe looked like white and black. At the bottom of the pipe, the cockroach corpses piled up a sharp cone about 40 centimeters high. Within a radius of 5 meters from the water pipe, the ground was densely packed with cockroach corpses or debris, and there was no gap to be seen. There is a rumor about cockroaches on the internet. When you see a cockroach, there are actually hundreds of thousands of cockroaches in your home. This view is obviously wrong, because cockroaches are insects that need to live close to water sources, and the places with the most water sources in residential areas are nothing more than bathrooms and kitchens. If there were hundreds of thousands of cockroaches in the sewer would have been blocked and unusable long ago. However, tonight, the number of cockroaches that died in building May 14th really be this number. After all, this is one of the outlet nodes for the domestic water of tens of thousands of people in a school, and the filth under the ground is unimaginable. As for the number of cockroaches in the entire HKUST campus, it is conservatively estimated that there are at least more than 3 million. Don't think this number is large. 3 million is actually considered small. In 2017, Jinling University once made a decomposer model based on earthworms, mites, beetles and cockroaches, etc. Among them, the total number of cockroaches in a densely populated area of 10,000 people is more than 1 million. Not to mention that schools, where a large amount of kitchen waste is produced every day, it is normal to be several times that of conventional residential areas. This is actually the same as the iceberg theory. The part that is not visible to the naked eye is much larger than the part that is visible. The boots of the one-piece chemical protective suit walked on the ground, and Su Yun and his party quickly entered the dormitory building. At this moment, the stairs from the 1st to the 2nd floor were covered with rows of cockroach corpses. On each step, there are conservatively estimated to be 20 to 30 remains. Director Guan used cleaning equipment to sweep a path, and everyone went from the 2nd floor to the 3rd floor. Finally, they came to the 4th floor, which was where Chang Licheng and his team were. As a retired Special Forces soldier, although Director Guan's ability is not as exaggerated as the Soldier King in the novel, his experience and psychological endurance are still good. For example, during the period when he went abroad for peacekeeping, he had seen some blood and fought with vicious criminals. However, even such a mighty man had goosebumps all over his body when he saw the scene on the 4th floor. At this moment, the corridor on the 4th floor, which is more than 30 meters long and 3 meters wide, is densely covered with cockroach corpses that are at least 3 centimeters thick. Then Director Guan and others endured the discomfort, stepped over the cockroach pile step by step, and led everyone to the center of the whole incident. That is, the blank area on the 4th floor where the garbage dump is placed. Well, how to say it? This area should not be described as blank now. The walls that were relatively smooth before are now densely covered with cockroach excrement, painting the entire wall black. On the windowsill, in the trash can, the entire area, even in the gaps, are full of cockroach legs. Various limbs on the ground are piled up into a small hill, and several vertebrae are raised. In this area of more than 10 square meters, the thickness of the cockroaches is at least more than 10 centimeters, and the number is incalculable. Chapter 74 HKUST, Super Double. 3 hours later, a figure ran out of the dormitory building quickly, ran to a big tree and took off the mask. With a sound of "you," he began to vomit. Behind him, Su Yun, Director Guan and others also walked out of the dormitory building with tired faces. 3 hours ago, After arriving at the crime scene, Soo-yoon and others immediately started cleaning up. Compared with the complex and numerous scenes, their method of cleaning up the scene was very simple. The Agricultural Science Institute on campus provided a large vacuum cleaner, which was said to be a device developed for cleaning locust corpses, and could suck up a lot of large things. Soo-yoon and his team retained the front suction port, and the back half of the collection box was transformed into an easy-to-untie sack. One person held the front end, and the other blocked the sack, and sucked up the cockroach corpses directly from the ground. When one sack was full, it was tightened and put aside, and then another one was put on, and the cockroach corpses were collected over and over again. Of course, this process seems simple to say, but it is still very challenging to do. After all, many cockroach corpses are no longer intact. From time to time, you can see some white eggs or sticky liquid, which is disgusting even through the protective clothing. Occasionally, when you are cleaning, some cockroaches with tenacious vitality will flutter up and rush straight to your face. Even if there is a mask to block this situation, it still has a strong impact on ordinary people. Therefore, Soo-yoon and others worked for 3 hours before they finished removing the cockroach corpses. From the perspective of the whole process, this is only the first step. The subsequent sterilization, cleaning and student placement work are also quite a headache. As for the results of Soo-yoon and others, did you see the 57 sacks over there? Note, I called a friend who is a doctoral student studying insects. He said that a 180 gin sack can hold about 1,500 American cockroaches, so 57 bags should be reasonable. Soo-yoon handed over the rest of the transfer matters to Director Gwon, and he walked quickly to Tian Liangwei, who was waiting on the side. At this time, Tian Liangwei was talking to someone. Soo-yoon came up and greeted him first. "Teacher, I'm out." Then he looked at the man next to the teacher, hesitated for a few seconds and said, "Hello, President Zhang." The full name of President Zhang mentioned by Soo-yoon is Zhang Rui. He is the Dean of the School of Mathematical Sciences and also serves as the Executive Vice President of the University of Science and Technology. Zhang Rui is also one of the local mathematicians with the greatest chance of winning the Wolf Prize. He graduated from the Krypton College of Zhangzhou University. Therefore, students of the School of Mathematics generally call him Dean Zhang, while students of the School of Foreign Affairs call him President Zhang. Zhang Rui's duties are mainly in charge of miscellaneous matters of life on campus, which means food, clothing, housing and transportation for students and employees. Therefore, he is also called the housekeeper of the University of Science and Technology by some faculty and staff. At present, such a big thing has happened in Building 14, which involves the placement of students. Therefore, it is not surprising that Zhang Rui, the main person responsible, appears here. After Soo-yoon finished greeting, Tian Liangwei glanced at Zhang Rui and asked, "Zio-su, has the dormitory been cleaned up?" "Yes, it's all cleaned up, and the only thing left is disinfection." "Then can you still hold on now? Do you want to rest for a while?" Soo-yoon was stunned when he heard this, and then he understood in his heart, I'm not tired, just say whatever you want." His mentor's words were implicit, and Zhang Rui was also at the scene, so the content of the next conversation was self-evident. To describe it in 4 words, it is accountability and punishment. Thinking of this, Soo-yoon's heart was a little heavy. Although strictly speaking, the main responsibility for this accident lies with the erroneous operation of Cheng Licheng and Ye Guhong. If he really wants to be held accountable, he, the initiator, must be unable to get away. Once the punishment is made, some subsequent things may be more troublesome, and it may even be recorded in the file. It is a troublesome matter anyway. Of course, Soo-yoon is not completely without confidence, just letting others do whatever they want. Although the accident in Building 14 was beyond everyone's expectations, it was a coincidence that proved how powerful the effect of imidacloprid was. It was impossible for HKUST not to see its commercial value. Therefore, if there is any financial punishment, the worst that can happen is that you can advance some of your future income. It is unlikely that you will be expelled from school or stay in school. It's just that it will be embarrassing, and you may be criticized. Just as Soo-yoon was thinking about it, Tian Liangwei spoke with a very serious expression. "Zio-su, you are an eyewitness to this incident. You should know that from the early morning to the present few hours, HKUST has suffered losses in manpower and material resources. Outside the school, it faces certain public opinion and social pressure, and even involves the problem of the school's image, Soo-yoon listened quietly, waiting for the next punishment result. So after a unanimous decision by the school leaders, we finally designated a solution to carry out a campus-level cockroach extermination at several designated locations in the East District, and broadcast it live on the entire network. No problem, I accept the school's punishment on me. Soo-yoon was originally nodding like a chicken pecking at rice, with an attitude that he would take full responsibility. As he was talking, he suddenly felt something was wrong. Wait, what did you say? Tian Liangwei finally couldn't hold back his expression this time. He chuckled and patted Soo-yoon's shoulder hard. I said that the school is preparing to carry out another large-scale extermination, which will be broadcast live on the entire network. You kid, hurry up and produce some 5th-generation glue bait for me these few days. Do you understand? Looking at the confused Soo-yoon, Zhang Rui on the side also laughed. He only heard him add cheerfully, Comrade Soo. In fact, at the beginning, the school leaders did have a headache about this matter. Cockroaches flocked to the dormitory. This is not negative news, but it is obviously not related to positive news. At the same time, if you don't refute the rumor, a lot of people will say that you are pretending to be dead and dare not respond. If you control the comments, you will start to make up conspiracy theories. As for refuting the rumor, you don't know how to issue an announcement. So several leaders decided that there are so many cockroaches in Building 14 alone, so let's just do a fixed-point disinfection in the East District. By the way, broadcast it live on the entire network to convert a wave of traffic. In the end, this should also be considered a positive topic, and it may be useful for next year's enrollment who can refuse a campus without cockroaches. Right, after listening to Zhang Rui's words, Soo-yoon was stunned at the scene. According to the teacher and Zhang Rui's meaning, not only is the University of Science and Technology not going to punish itself, but it is even going to make a big move? After a while, Soo-yoon's heart suddenly surged with a very complicated emotion, and he was full of emotion. Friends who have studied at USTC should all know that the school motto at USTC is 8 characters, read and expert go hand in hand, theory and practice blend together. The theory here refers to theory, which refers to both book knowledge and scientific values, outlook on life and worldview, and even more to truth. And reality refers to practice and reality. Concepts must be combined with reality and keep pace with the times, and cannot be complacent. Zhang Rui, or the decision of the school leaders, is undoubtedly the best interpretation of this school motto. Soo-yoon thought of a piece of news he had seen before. About a year or two ago, a freshman girl from Chengdu Normal University won 30,000 kilograms of watermelon in the Hema Fresh event, and she originally planned to distribute it to all the students in the school. At that time, the school's Tigba, Weibo and Penguin group were discussing this matter, and related topics were on the hot search every few days. There were even students from some nearby schools who said that they would go to grab watermelons that day, and almost the entire network was looking forward to that day. What was the result? Such a good traffic monetization activity was rejected by the school in the delivery link. In desperation, the girl could only give the watermelon to bus drivers throughout the city. At that time, Chengdu Normal University was scolded and became a hot search because of this incident. In desperation, it could only start to reduce the rights and control the comments. A godsend opportunity that could earn steady traffic turned into negative marketing. Finally, when the first-tier line rose the following year, Chengdu Normal's provincial admission line dropped by 23 points. Today's USTC has shown its unique side. Not only did it exempt Soo-yoon from the punishment he had received, but it also doubled the punishment, using offense instead of defense, intending to make a big news. Indeed, the location of subsequent activities, prevention and control measures, and how to avoid affecting students still require extremely serious discussion, but judging from USTC's actions alone, it is undoubtedly a very popular approach. It's no wonder that such an open-minded school is yearning for countless people. Chapter 75 Abnormal People. The super doubling of HKUST not only exceeded Soo-yoon's expectations, but also shocked the social media. After all, there were rumors flying around on the internet before, and all kinds of speculations were endless. Some said that HKUST had excavated the underground palace of a certain emperor, and some said that this was a precursor to a disaster. Someone even set a stud file and changed the surname of a Japanese student to Birame, which attracted a lot of Naruto fans. Of course, there are also many comments about HKUST killing insects. In short, there are truths and falsehoods, and truths and falsehoods. But the whole thing is a whole thing, and most people's subconscious views are actually more inclined to natural accidents, and almost no one believes that it is the result of human factors. Therefore, when the official Weibo of HKUST announced that it would hold a comprehensive cockroach extermination in the East Campus in the near future, and the whole process would be broadcast live on the internet, all kinds of doubts suddenly swept in. One of the highly praised comments was as follows: "Come on, isn't it just an insect riot caused by seasonal factors?" In 2014, there was also a phenomenon of millions of termites gathering in Zhejiang Agricultural University. In the final analysis, it is just the self-regulation of the regional ecosystem. Why do you have to link it to some new generation of pesticides? What's the difference between this and those internet celebrities who pretend to be popular through street photos and start selling goods in a few days? The comment received 47,000 likes and more than 1,200 related replies. There are also many similar questioning comments, including some bloggers with some of the doubts are relatively pure, just judgments made from a logical perspective, while some doubts have certain personal tendencies. For example, some experts from other schools who have academic conflicts with a professor of HKUST, or some public intellectuals who use one point to fight for the whole and forcibly elevate the HKUST incident to the local teaching environment. All kinds of monsters and demons have turned the comment area into team building. However, if there are doubts, naturally there will be people who try to refute the rumors, especially students in the East District of HKUST. Even if they were not witnesses of the incident last night, they were definitely first-hand sources of information. Among these students, the main combat force was the students in Class 2 of Yingwu. Boyle, in the temporary dormitory, Chang Licheng hammered the desk irritably, "If you can't fight, just block him." With this level, he still has a master's degree from Jiaotong University. Fu Ming, who was standing aside, heard this and stretched his neck to take a look. "Oh, you know about Weibo. Academic qualifications do not need to be certified. You can fill in any of Tsinghua, Peking University, Jiaotong and Fudan University. Do you really think that he wrote Jiaotong University and it is true? You have to go to Huzhou to find out about academic qualifications. Although there are a lot of quarrels, at least there is a certification threshold, unlike Weibo where junior high school students can fill in Peking University." Chang Licheng sighed irritably and shook his head. "It's not a question of whether the academic qualifications are real or not. The main thing is that this person's spray is too ugly. Look. The hat of seeking fame and preparing to make money is put on, as if they have seen a meeting of the school directors with their own eyes." He kept talking about PhDs and master's degrees, but when asked, he didn't even know the difference between academic masters and professional masters. Isn't it obvious that he is a black fan? Half a day ago, after being rescued from the dormitory by the security team, the students in Building 14 were urgently sent to another vacant dormitory building for resettlement. After all, unlike other colleges and universities, HKUST only enrolls less than 2,000 undergraduates a year, so there are still many vacant dormitories on campus. As direct witnesses of the cockroach incident, Chang Licheng and others still have not completely calmed down at this time, but boys are relatively heartless. In addition, the school has specially approved 2 days of vacation for them. It is said that the college is still considering whether to give some credits or even GPA compensation, and the attitude is still very friendly. Therefore, over time, the desire of these few hundred people to talk gradually overwhelmed their inner fear, and they spontaneously became internet trolls. Chang Licheng's thoughts are more complicated. After all, the cause of the whole incident was the tricky operation of him and Yi Guhong, so compared with other students, his attitude and frequency of online confrontation are higher. Ding dong, just as Chang Licheng was about to regroup and fight again, a message suddenly sounded in his friend list. Chang Licheng clicked it and found that the other party was a netizen with a JoJo avatar, with a very detailed ID and the note Wang Xiaomin. The chat content was very concise, just 2 words, "Xiao Chang, are you there?" Wang Xiaomin. Chang Licheng recalled for a few seconds and soon remembered who the other party was. This person was a senior from another school he met when he just entered school last year. He had some part-time resources around the school, including but not limited to tutoring, flyers, doll clothes, etc. At that time, Chang Licheng also signed up several times with his roommates and others, but later he learned that this person was actually a middleman, or what is commonly known as a snakehead. A job with an hourly wage of 15 yuan would be deducted 30% once it was transferred through him, and only 10 yuan would be in the hands of the part-time students. Some newbies who don't understand the situation are often easily dragged into the water. When the newbies become old birds and know how to find part-time jobs through other channels, a new batch of newbies will arrive again. This kind of person definitely has abilities, and they are much better than most people, but their character varies from person to person. At least after a few contacts, Chang Lichen took the initiative to cut off contact with him. He didn't say bad things about him behind his back, but he kept his distance. However, although they didn't contact each other, they were still polite to each other. Chang Lichen replied quickly, "I'm here, brother Minimum. I haven't contacted you for a long time. Are you still in Luzhou?" Soon, Wang Xiaomin replied, "I came to Yanjing to spend the day. I can be considered a migrant worker in Beijing." Chang Lichen, Yanjing? It's a good place, but the consumption level seems to be very high, right? Wang Xiaomin replied quickly, "That's right. The monthly rent for an apartment with a room is more than 5,000 yuan. Forget it, let's not talk about this. By the way, Xiao Chang, I heard that something happened in your major yesterday." "Yes, cockroaches attacked the city, covering face." "I see, I saw on the official Weibo at USTC that it was caused by pesticides. Is this true or false?" Hearing the other party mention pesticides, Chang Lichen immediately became interested and typed a few more words. "Of course it's true. It's a new type of insecticide developed by one of our seniors. I applied the pesticide myself yesterday." After Chang Lichen sent this sentence, Wang Xiaomin's dialog box suddenly became quiet. But it can be clearly seen from the top of the chat box that Wang Xiaomin has been in the state of the other party is typing, and he should be organizing the next content. After a while, Wang Xiaomin's new reply came, "Xiao Chang, to be honest, there are a lot of cockroaches in my house recently, and they are all American cockroaches. My girlfriend was scared to death in the middle of the night. Do you have any remaining insecticides? Can you give me some?" Chang Lichen was stunned when he heard this, and subconsciously typed, "Yes, I have some, but it's not very convenient. This insecticide has not been made public yet. How about you wait for a while, brother Min?" A few seconds later, Wang Xiaomin sent another reply, and the content made Chang Lichen raise his eyebrows, crying, "I can't wait. There are too many cockroaches. Or, you can take a small medicine bottle like vitamin C and fill it with some insecticide for me, and I will transfer you 300 yuan. How about it?" 300 yuan, for students, is actually a very tempting number. However, Chang Lichen's attitude was still very firm, and he typed on the keyboard, "It really doesn't work. How about I go ask my senior and see if he can sell you some?" Seeing Chang Lichen's firm attitude, Wang Xiaomin had to give up. "Forget it, your senior and I are not very familiar with each other. I will think of other ways." The formula of infinite small bright may not be bad. Looking at the reply from Wang Xiaomin, Chang Lichen inexplicably felt a little strange in his heart. Then he slowly pulled up the chat history, and his eyes finally stopped at 2 paragraphs. "That's not right. There will be a lot of cockroaches in Yanjing in this season? And there are American cockroaches." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.